Hey guys, welcome to episode 261 of 4Play Animecast. It is pretty much exactly the end of November, heading into December, and we are rounding up with our last episode for our series of Fall 2024 anime season reviews. I am your co-host, Spire, and with me are my compatriots Near,
Hello.
Toast,
Hello, it is I.
and Dark.
Hi.
All right. So again, this is going to be the last. We're going to have a couple of interesting series here, but just before that, we spent about just 1 week between the last podcast and this one. So we're going to go over our, I guess, last week very briefly. Near, did anything new over the last week or so?
Um, well, it was last week, right? That Atlas came out.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
bought Atlas,
Yeah.
early access, indie furry game, with
nice.
Gunnar physics. And also it's fun. It's like a dungeon crawling, sort of co-op, almost like pseudo MMO. You know, it's got like a hotbar. You got skills.
Hmm.
You got classes. It's really fun. It's really cool. Definitely recommend.
Nice.
Just came out cheap. Um, I also bought a bunch of old games on GOG for the Black Friday sale. Um, so I've been playing some of those. I kind of got fucking absolutely blasted because I was playing um this old RPG and I was like too too used to, modern games auto saving, like every time you enter a door or go through like a loading screen or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I died. I got fucking owned because I entered the dungeon. I was too low level for. And then I loaded the last autosave and I was like, damn, I just lost an hour and a half of progress. That's really cool. Um, so I closed the game. Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, that's pretty much been it. Just kind of gaming, you know. Um,
Nice. Okay. Pretty good. What about you, Dark? Last week?
I have been I picked up what do you call it? I picked up soccer too. I installed it. I proceeded to see Near Play Atlas. Then I picked up that, and I have not played Stalker at all still. um, and I've pretty much only played Atlas and World of Warcraft now for the last like week.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay, pretty good.
Atlas is kind of sick. Atlas is kind of crazy. Like it's super fun. Really good movement. Really
Right,
good like
pretty good.
really good atmosphere for a game, you know? Like a
Mhm.
N64 rare game type deal. So very
Mhm.
cool. A lot
All
of
right.
potential.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of good things about the game, to be honest. So, but yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dark. What about you, Toast? Last week?
A week more like the last 2 days, my dude.
yeah.
And the last 2 hours, too.
Yes. Couple of interesting pieces of news.
I ain't gonna say it. You're
Anything
gonna have
else?
to force it out of me.
Well, I am not going to. Uh, I
Yeah,
don't
you
really
say
want
that
to go over it too
like
much.
like Spire's gonna be like, please, oh please.
Yeah. But anything that outside of that news that you want to talk about for
There's nothing
this
else to
current
talk
situation?
about other than that news. What are you
True.
talking
That's the
about?
only thing
Never
happening in the
been
world right now.
more over.
That's true. Anyways,
I mean, I
yes.
guess it's been cold. Well, I'll
Mhm.
talk about it later, but I guess it's been cold.
Okay. Yeah. It's been pretty cool over here too.
Yeah, only took it
Not
like,
too much.
2 weeks, two,
I
three
can't
weeks
trust
in
Yeah.
Hololive
November.
anymore. There, I said it.
like to like Toast could trust Hotline before.
Yeah,
But
you're like,
Could
man,
up
one
to
of
an
those
extent, but
Hololive
now I can't.
managers
Not
are just
anymore.
yeah.
really
But
good.
yeah, I've been tuned a little bit in that
Don't
the news kind
Fubuki
of talk
said
about
that
you.
as long as she's still on Hololive is good. I don't believe her anymore.
I never believed her from the start,
I always believed in you.
but yeah, I mean, there's not much going on again. It's been cold here on the East Coast as well. I think the cold front came in dark, if I remember correctly. Starting from
Yeah,
what
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
weeks
like
back.
about a week
But
I
ago.
remember.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
again,
I
it's like
remember.
took 3 weeks into November for it to fucking get
Yeah,
cold.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I remember.
So the
Now.
second week it's snowing.
How's Fortnite, Spire? You playing Fortnite now?
I'm not playing
Why
Fortnite.
You
not? You
got it,
see,
dude. You got it,
you
bro.
have to now, dude. Even
Yeah,
I might have to do it.
It's
every auto fan must play Fortnite now.
yeah. All all show listeners must burn now in the flames of Fortnite. But no, I'm
It's
not
not
gonna play
show.
Fortnite.
It's Odo, my dude. How dare you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
This guy doesn't know his songs.
arguably by me, her worst song.
Yeah. But I haven't been up to too much, just running around a bit. I've been getting a little bit of a not job switch, but I've been having extra duties to do and stuff like that. So I've been running around a little bit. Caught up with some anime, prepping my end of the year awards list, but other than that, been pretty quiet so far. But yeah, that's been my last week or so. And I guess without further ado, we should just start right off. And we start off now with Toast.
How dare you
We
make
have
me
first.
start?
Yeah.
How dare you? It's only been 2 hours. How dare you?
Mhm.
Anyway, you fools.
Okay.
You guys left. What the heck? You guys left the most important isekai
Easy.
for for me to take. You fools! One of you should have taken it.
Why?
No, I'm good.
Why?
Yeah. Anyway, so you guys heard of a series called Dragon Ball?
No.
Maybe.
Oh, all right.
Perhaps.
What's that about?
About this monkey dude who goes on adventures, stealing balls and making
Sounds
wishes.
dumb.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
played,
sounds like
or I'm
they.
sorry, Paneer, have you played Black Myth Wukong?
No, not
Yeah,
yet.
I think this
I'm waiting
Not
series
for it to
yet?
go
It's
on
copied
kind
it
of like
sale.
though.
that.
It's kind of fucked
Yeah, it's
up.
kind of like that.
Uh,
Anyway,
When
did
does
someone
Goku
cover
get
Super
M-Peg in
last
this
time?
version?
true.
Like twice. Anyway, did we cover Super? I don't think we did, right?
No.
No,
What's
I
wrong
think
with
you
you?
covered a
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Both movies. Anyway, so this new one,
Dragonball
Daima,
DAIMA, yes.
Dragon, takes place in the time frame between the end of Z, end of the Majin Buu saga, and before
Okay.
Dragon Ball Super.
Okay.
So no Beerus yet. I guess this is
Is that not
a
GT?
couple months afterwards. No, GT's 10 years after Buu, I believe. 10? Well, yeah.
So wait, when does this take place compared to GT? After GT?
GT's 10 years after end of Z. This is the time frame between. I want to say, yeah, it's after the Buu saga, but before Super. So I think Super was what, 5 years after Buu? Is that what it was?
Is GT even
Or
canon? Like,
uh, no. If you want to, no, not really. But yeah,
great.
funny you say that, Near, because this kind of soft replaces GT, but this
Uh-huh.
one's canon.
Wow.
So anyway, the series begins with a bunch of dudes from the demon world watching the Boo saga on their fancy plasma screen TVs, and they're like, "Hey, you remember that Dabra guy? He, remember he was a demon king?" And they're
Sure.
like, "Hey, Dabra got eaten by Majid Buu. That makes you the new demon king, new character." He's like, damn, that's cool. But he's like, oh damn, these mortals actually defeated Majin Buu because Majin Buu's like this super scary demon, whatever. He hails from the demon realm apparently. They're like, oh damn. Now that Majin Buu has been killed, there's no one in the way to stop my grand master plan of becoming the new Supreme Demon King. And then this other dude who kind of looks like a Supreme Kai, he's like, hey, wait a minute. What about these guys? What about Goku and his cohorts? They could beat you up since you defeated Majin Buu. And I'm like, and then what's the guy's name? The new Demon King is named Goma. And he's like, oh damn. Well, I'd better use the Dragon Balls and prevent them from stopping my world conquest of the demon realm. But
So these are it, it are like the demon realm antagonists like Goma and the others. Are they're just set up for Daima, right? Are they like properly I don't are they
these
included
are
with
all
the
new
antagonists just
characters.
for okay,
These are
okay.
all new
So it's just
characters.
for Daima. Okay.
And then but the thing is, they mentioned that the demon world has Dragon Balls too, but they're
Okay.
guarded by these three what are they called? By these three guardian things. I forgot what they're called.
Wouldn't they be demon balls?
No, I'll bring that up in a bit.
Okay.
They're guarded by these three guardians called Tamagami, and apparently the demon world has only 3 Dragon Balls.
Okay.
There's one Dragon Ball in every demon world. There's apparently 3 of them. I'll bring that up in a bit. But no one's ever gotten to them because they're super strong guardians. So they use Earth's Dragon Balls to try and facilitate Supreme Demon King Goma's conquest of the demon realm. But there's a lot of new lore that's dropped like instantly in the first episode that if you're a longtime Dragon Ball fan you might like, but it'll be confusing for people who want to jump into this immediately.
Hmm.
Like everyone knows that Namekians live on planet Namek, right?
Yes.
Well, now they said that hey, Namekians were originally from the demon world, and that's why the demon realm
Ah,
has
okay.
Dragon Balls. And there's
Didn't
this
they imply
one,
that before?
yeah, Demon King Piccolo and all that, but now they're
Oh,
actual demons, not slug
right.
people.
Okay.
And but yeah, there's this one
Uh,
surviving Namekian
they
in the
copied
demon
World of
world
Warcraft.
who created the Dragon Balls and whatnot. So they bring him along to the human realm, and he does some magic stuff and gets to forcibly use the Dragon Balls and whatnot. So Goma uses his first wish. He's all like, "Okay, we don't want Goku and company to stop us, so we're gonna turn them into children, specifically first graders. And if you're already a child before the wish, you get turned into an infant." And then Shenron's like, "Okay, that's your one wish." And Goma's like, "Hey, wait a minute! Don't we usually get 3 wishes? Because then they modify the Dragon Balls to get was it 3 wishes and two if it's like a mass revival of more than one person."
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
And then Shenron's like, "Hey, here's some new lore, Dragon Ball lore. If you're a returning customer, you get 3 nowadays."
Damn.
Yeah.
So this is
So
so
that's a new retcon, I believe. I guess.
And that's Goku famously never did anything as a kid. So like that was smart. That was good.
True.
Yeah,
Goma. By
and
the
then
way, I just want to get this out of the way.
there's a lot
Goma.
of lore dump in this first
Yeah,
episode.
a lot of this is kind of like also trying to fix like power scaling kind of issues, right? That's kind of
What power scaling?
in the contiguous like franchise, right?
Yeah, there's
But
no fixing that.
also
There's no
yeah,
this series. I mean, it's now that you mention it. This series power scaling in this is pretty consistent with stuff. I'll bring it up in a bit later. But yeah, continue.
So Goma, by just like how the franchise works, has to be more powerful than Majin Buu and like the Warriors, but
No,
is
not at
weaker
all.
than
He's
Beerus,
weak.
right? Really?
No, remember Dabura was the demon king, so he was stronger than anyone else in the demon realm, and he got off by
Okay,
Majin
okay.
Buu, and that's why Goma was like, "Oh damn, they killed the guy who ate Demon King Dabura. We can't do anything about this. That's why we need the Dragon Balls to stop them." And they
Okay.
also mentioned something like there was another fun retcon. They're like, "Oh, we can't use the Dragon Balls to kill them because they're in what is it? They're not Demon World Dragon Balls, so we can't make like an impure wish on them. Like we can't kill them outright. We have to stop them." I guess that might be a throwback to the Black Star Dragon Balls and how, impure wishes make the dragon stronger or whatnot.
Why wouldn't they just
Anyway,
make
there's a
them
bunch
all
of lore.
into humans
I mean, because they're trying to recreate GT.
instead of
That's
like
the meta
children
reason.
Super Saiyan?
Why can't you wish
Like...
to like kill Goku?
I just said that
Kill the
they
No,
Vegeta
that
they
enemies.
makes
just
sense.
mentioned that.
Yeah, you just said an impure wish. But if you could wish that they were kids, why couldn't you just wish that they were just like humans?
But
I
well,
mean,
isn't wishing for them to be kids for the sake of being able to beat them like that's technically an impure wish, right?
yeah, and he was trying to make 3 wishes, like, oh, I'm gonna make them weak this first off, so they can't interfere with my plans. Then I'm gonna use my second wish for like this I guess this demon realm item that will make me all powerful. Shenron's like, oh no, you only get 1 wish, so here's your children wish. But yeah, and then because of that, when everyone else got turned into children, Dende got turned into an infant because remember he's a child. So they're like, okay, so so that Goku will not interfere with our plans anymore, we'll kidnap Dende so they can't use their Dragon Balls anymore. And that facilitates the reason why they go to the demon realm is in order to rescue Dende and turn back to normal. That's like the main actual story of why they're in the demon realm now.
Is Daima going to wait? How many episodes is Daima
I've
planned
heard
out for?
this is 20.
Okay, so relatively succinct then overall.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird number.
I mean, it makes sense if you compare the animation quality of it
Who's run?
compared
Who's?
compared
I
to
guess
Super.
I mean JB Dragon Ball always has a lot of studios, but is there like a
What
main
do you
studio
mean
for
a
this
lot
or
of
no?
studios? It's Toei. It's literally just Toei again.
Well, it's Toei, but you don't. Dragon Ball usually has a lot of like subcontractors too, right? I mean, it is
I
mainly
don't
Toei, but
believe
yeah.
so. I mean, Dragon Ball, everything I've seen is Toei.
Okay.
Maybe like unless you're talking about Dragon Ball Heroes, I don't know. I don't know.
There's
That's
a
Dragon Ball
lot of
Heroes.
subcontractors, but yeah, it's headed, I believe, by Toei, which is again very standard. But okay, okay,
But yeah, and then what else? Yeah. So
okay.
other than
How?
that, there's a lot of
Yeah.
lore dump in this series that Dragon Ball fans will find interesting. There's a
How
lot to
much
go around.
retconning is there?
I mentioned that they mentioned that anyone with pointy ears is probably from the demon realm. So
Okay.
is it a bunch of retcon if this is new information? I mean, the Piccolo, the Namekians being from the demon realm, that's a retcon, I believe.
I mean, it's kind of a retcon if it recontextualizes a lot of shit. It's
Also,
like actually it was this all along, right? So
they retcon the fusion, I guess. Because if you remember the Potara fusion, they said it's permanent, and then they retcon it in Super where Vegito Blue was so powerful that the fusion was cut down to what 10 minutes because they were too powerful and unfused.
uh,
And then they explained it that they explained it in Z, I believe. Well, it was I guess kind of hinted at that the mysterious gas inside of Majin Buu was the reason why they separated inside. So the reason why you see Kabito and Shin separated in this series is that like they were like, hey, we had Majin Buu eat us and spit us back out, so now we're unfused. That's also a retcon because in the beginning of Super, you still see Kabito Kai fused. So that's another retcon. What else? Oh, they also mentioned in this series that the Supreme Kai, they also originate from the demon realm.
You
They're
know what is
what?
They're just like
I
shoving
really I
everything
don't
into the
really
demon world.
yeah, I don't really understand
Okay,
where
I
this is
mean,
like
I can bring that up immediately. But so the demon realm is a realm separate from all the known universes because they mention like, hey, when they were traveling to universe 7 from the demon realm, we're like, hey, which universe do you want to go to? So it's a completely separate plane of reality from like the other, was it 12 universes? And there's 3 realms in this. So I guess
Mhm,
that's why but every Supreme Kai in every universe is looks the same way because they're all from the same race, which is apparently they're called Glind now, and they originate from the second demon realm, and I guess they're fruit people because they grow from an onion looking plant.
mhm.
Yeah. So there's a lot of lore dump in here.
Okay. How's
Eh,
the can I make a left turn real quick? How are the audio visuals in
Good.
this
I
one?
mean, it's
Okay.
miles ahead of Super,
Okay.
obviously.
I mean,
Okay.
Super
Eh,
was kind of not great.
it was iffy in a lot of parts, and like it had a lot of different animators who were working on it.
Mhm,
Like this one scene looks like this, and another scene looks really good like this. Say
mhm,
Super's animation was noticeably bad until maybe the Tournament of Power, where everyone started like, okay, this is the grand finale, pump up. But Toei's been amping up their game ever since I want to say the Wano arc. If you pay attention to the Wano arc, they got some really good animators there. Even Egghead is also animated well. So, and Daima being a 20 episode series, it's really high quality. I want to say they learned a lot from the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie and Superhero. So I want to say the but yeah, it looks really good.
does this seem like something that they would try to make like more movies off of after Daima the anime ends, or do you think it's
I
like
don't know, you'd have
this
to
is
ask
pretty much it?
you have to ask Akira Toriyama, but you can't.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if because it's like obviously the people involved with the franchise don't ever want to lose the bag, right? So it's like I feel like they would try to use the success to make like 5 more movies off of Daima if it's successful enough. Um, but would you I guess would you let's say somebody is coming in and for some reason they haven't watched Dragon Ball in some
But
alternate
I,
timeline.
I don't believe that
Um,
at all. But
would you recommend them to watch it in this sort of like order where it's like Z, Daima,
this
Super,
this guy,
or
this guy, this guy didn't even mention the original Dragon Ball.
yeah, and obviously the original Dragon Ball as well. But
Just Toy.
would you recommend that they watch it in this order, in that order?
I mean, I just watch it in release date. Why not?
Okay.
I mean,
Well, I guess it doesn't matter. It's kind of like Star Wars in that sense, right? Yeah.
but yeah. So I guess the main thing I want to bring up about this series is this is a return to form for Dragon Ball, as in it's not it's not Z, not it's not Super where it's just one fight after another and power scaling and whatnot. This is more of a the beginning of Dragon Ball adventurous return to form kind of thing where Goku meets up with a crew, you know, and then they search for the Dragon Balls to make a wish. Kind of like how the
Mhm.
beginning of GT was like that, where old Goku also got turned to turned to being a child, and then they had to travel the universe to find the Black Star Dragon Balls, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, in terms of power scaling, it's there's no battle of gods, so it's right at the end of the Buu saga. So Goku's this. Mm, Goku is the strongest character that will be seen in this series. You know,
Mhm.
So
but
they're kids like the whole time, right? It's not like
yeah,
it's not just like a bit.
no, they got turned into kids by the Dragon Balls, but it's only
Yeah, as
Goku
far
and
as
his friends.
as far as I know, it's kind of like Daima has this like incident, but it's like from a different source as to why Goku gets turned into a kid. And then later on, GT Goku is like an entirely different thing where he again gets turned into a kid by some other
It was
not a
Pilaf.
conspiracy, but yeah. but
Right.
um but they're two different incidents where they both get turned into kids
Yeah.
is as far as I know. Yeah.
Yeah. And they mentioned Goku Mini. This is Goku Mini if you play Sparking Zero. But yeah, no, none of you ever outed me when I said Goku was the strongest character in the end of Buu Saga. How dare you?
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. I don't give a single fuck about the discussion of like who's the strongest at what
But
point
there,
of
but near
anything.
there was an obvious stronger character. Don't you remember?
It doesn't matter who's like stronger in the
Don't you
lore
remember?
because it's always gonna be Goku because he's always gonna be able to pull some bullshit out of his
Don't you
asshole.
remember Ultimate Gohan?
Wow.
He's stronger than Goku in this.
All right.
But
All
but he
right.
doesn't appear in this series, and they write him off as like they were having a party for Trunks's ninth birthday, something like that. And then everyone's like, "Hey, where's Gohan?" And Goku's like, "Oh, he's off studying." So that's the reason why you don't see Gohan in this series, because he's off studying, probably studying as a kid again. What else? But yeah,
I
it's a
guess
return. It's a return
yeah.
to form because the power scaling is dumbed down to after Z.
Mhm.
Goku's the strongest one we see, and the reason why he has the power pole in this series now, because but he used it in the beginning of Dragon Ball, but now he's using it again, is due to the wish that turned him into children. Goku mentioned like, "Oh, it's hard to fly because the balance of my body's off, and my range,
Mhm.
the range of my attacks is different because I'm a kid." So he's like, "All right, I'll just use the power pole to compensate." So that's why he's got the
Okay.
power pole.
Okay.
What else? But
I
yeah,
guess
so
then
far
yeah.
there's 7 episodes out. There's an eighth that's coming out on December 3rd, and so far it's just been one big adventure series.
Mhm.
They're traveling the demon realm. They're meeting up. They visit various villages, eat food.
Mhm.
He poops a couple of times. He fights some dudes, mostly with the power
Mhm.
pole, and he hasn't really used Super Saiyan yet, like in an actual battle,
Mhm.
because there's no real need to. I would say
Mhm.
there's no real challenge that he has yet to face. He's hinted at it, like, oh, he powers up with the gold aura, but he doesn't really turn. Uh, you know, he doesn't show the full Super Saiyan transformation yet, like in
Mhm.
an actual battle. So that's that's what I mean when I'm saying it's the power scaling really doesn't matter because he's not really because he used because back in Z, turning Super Saiyan immediately against a strong opponent was the norm. Goku's not really doing it here.
What's like
Uh,
the overall like tone of this? Like is it more like because I
It's
feel like the original Dragon Ball was a lot more like it was low stakes, it was a bit more whimsical, adventure-y.
yeah,
And then as
yeah,
the
I would
series
say
got
that.
on, it was like super serious. Like this is
So
fucking
far, it's
life and death
that.
shit. Okay.
So far, it's that Goku's having fun traveling the demon realm with his with this new character named Glorio, who's a demon, and Shin, the Supreme Kai, because Get Supreme Kai's here. Yeah, cool. He's a lord
Yeah,
dump, I guess.
the thing is, I feel like as you kind of implied from Z onward, at the end of Z and onward, it's just like because the level of like how their fights are quote unquote supposed to be in the lore, right? Where they're literally just like able to suck up planets, right? Um, because of that level, it's like at some point they have to get kind of downer, right? And they kind of have to do this naturally because can't be like, oh yeah, I'm just trained. I just want to be the fucking strongest, like which is sort of Goku's theme, right? But then also be like, by the way, I'm fighting somebody that is more or less like an existential crisis to our galaxy, right? It's like you
Yeah.
can't really have those coexist in the same space. So it became a little bit heavier, but I do like how this is sort of like a side quest to return to that sort of how do I say atmosphere, this mood that Dragon Ball had for
If
sure.
if anything, I want to say, what is it? What's that guy's name? Goma. Goma is basically peel off again because he wants,
Mm,
world domination and whatnot. Peel off was Goku's first real antagonist, I would say.
mm,
And
yeah.
this series has more in line with Sandland and Dragon Quest than Z and Super, because Z and Super are like they're shonen battle series. These are more adventures. The beginning of Dragon Ball and this and Daima is just an adventure series, and
Mm,
there's a lot of reused themes. Remember Bulma when she met Goku? She was this feisty girl who was good with machines. Well, in the demon realm, they've traveled with this demon girl named Pansy, who's feisty and also is good with machines.
Wow. Bulma
Because in
2.
the
It's crazy.
because in the demon realm, there's volcanic gas all around, and it makes it hard to fly and whatnot. So they use planes, and they use planes to travel in the demon realm. That's how they travel around, kind of like
Guess again,
Sandland,
overall, oh
but with
yeah,
planes.
overall, it's pretty kind of I want to say standard Dragon Ball, so I'm not sure. There, I think obviously it'll be nice for the fans who are um like who just want something like a decent, as you said, like a return to form. But I guess just to kind of start wrapping it up, would you say this is a
I mean,
little
I,
bit,
I I should probably mention the voice actors first before that, all that,
yeah,
because
yeah. But is it the standard cast or
it
are there
is
like
not.
some replacements?
It
Okay.
is not because like when they get turned into kids, it's the usual voice actors in the beginning, but when they get turned into kids, suddenly everyone except Goku has a new voice actor.
Oh, okay. I
I
see.
mean,
That's a pretty wild
he's
choice, actually.
is it though?
Yeah.
Is it though? Because
Maybe it's because they are getting in a little bit on age. That's why they kind of made the
the
decision.
only
But
yeah, the only one I would say is weird is Krillin, because
mm,
Krillin's voice actor would have been fine doing a kid voice, because she
Yeah.
voices Luffy too. But no,
Yeah.
it's not. But yeah, let's see. Goku's the same. Vegeta's a new character, is a new dude. So
wow.
Vegeta's a new dude. Piccolo's a new dude. Bulma's a new dude. Yeah,
I guess
Yeah.
because out of the actors, out of the cast there, I think Vegeta is Vegeta's original actor. I mean, although he still
Ryo
does do
Horikawa.
Vegeta.
I don't think he can do a young voice anymore.
Yeah. He's like literally one of the oldest ones on there, right?
Yeah,
In the cast. So yeah,
yeah. They
it's a
changed
little bit
Bulma's
harder.
voice actor. That's weird. Even
Mm,
even Supreme Kai got a new voice. Even Kabito's there.
mhm.
Dende's still Aya here now. That's fun. Also, the main, I guess, is it the main? The main, or one of the new villains is a Supreme Kai's older sister named Dr. Arinsu, and she's voiced by Yoko Hikasa, which is weird because isn't Yoko Hikasa also voicing is it Toa in Dragon Ball. Toa. Toa? No, not Toa. That one chick. Dragon Ball. The whatever. No, who cares? Yeah, it's Yoki Kasa. No, I'm thinking of Marina Inoue. My bad.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I think I know I've heard of her in conjunction with DBZ actually before. You're actually correct. Yeah. But
yeah,
it
but
is, yeah, they can get mixed up at times. Yeah.
yeah. I guess Krillin's the voice actor is Aki Kanada. Majin Buu has a new voice actor too. I don't know. There's a list,
Mhm.
a fun
And
list.
this is a good time as any to kind of bring them in again because they are sort of this is like the kid versions, right? Like the new versions that
Yeah,
like usually in Japanese voice acting they bring in new people for the kids anyways. So, yeah.
but you can't
Mhm.
take away Goku. But yeah,
Yeah.
overall, very solid series.
Would you recommend this to people kind of coming in new, or do you think at least they should at least watch Dragon Ball
They
and
should at
Dragon Ball
least watch
Z?
Dragon Ball before this.
Okay. Okay, 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 okay.
I mean, I don't imagine anyone coming in new. I don't
Mhm.
imagine anyone coming in new would have an opinion that want you a worthwhile opinion unless you watched the original Dragon Ball. Ha ha ha.
True.
Yeah.
True. Well, yeah. Pansy is voiced by Pharaoh's Eye. That was a main. That was a main thing.
Okay.
Yes. So good for her. A big role for
Mhm.
her. Overall, definitely a 9 out of 10. Yeah,
Alright.
very strong 9 out of 10. It's
Alright. I'm glad to
whimsical,
hear. Yeah.
whimsical. Good vibes. Good. What's the word? Good. It's good storytelling. Good premise for an adventure series is what I'm gonna say.
Mhm.
They gotta rescue Dende. Yeah.
Would you say this is better or worse than Total Dramarama?
I'm going to say it's definitely better than Dragon Ball Super, even fight
All right.
wise, because the fights are choreographed very well. Because unless it's a certain scenes in Dragon Ball Super, the fights were kind of ass and animated. There's a lot of there's a lot of thought put into the fight choreography in this series. They did, I guess, they learned quite a bit from, like I mentioned it before, like Dragon Ball Super Broly and the One Piece stuff all the way to now. So good Sakugs near is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Good Sakugs.
You would hope so for
Huh?
fucking Toei, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
if you give them time and not, oh, we got to pump out, what is it, 80 episodes of Dragon Ball Super every week. It shows. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
got we got to pump out. We got to have. We got to quick. We got to push on baby onto the screen quick. Kind of that shit. But yeah.
Yeah. 9 out of 10. Good lord drop from the expanded Dragon Ball world that everyone wants to know more of ever since they brought into the light of, oh, there's multiple universes in Super.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
it's definitely a breath of fresh air that they're in a different realm altogether and exploring it, because Z was all basically on Earth and Namek.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was kind of, yeah, it was kind of just Goku kind of running around either, you know, either being dead or not, kind of business. And other than that, it was pretty much just on Earth. So yeah.
Say like, yeah, Saiyans were on Earth, then there's Namek, and then Cell was on Earth, and Boo was basically on Earth, but then at the end he was on the world at Supreme Kai's. That doesn't really count. Yeah, overall, 9 out of 10, definitely a must watch. It's a good final send off to Akira Toriyama, because he was definitely involved in
Hmm.
the series.
Yeah.
He was more hands on
This is the
and
last one
more.
where he
Yeah,
was like in full direction of, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
He was hands off on Super most of the time, and
Okay.
in the Super manga. But yeah, 9 out of 10,
Okay.
definitely recommend it for Dragon Ball fans. Uh,
Yeah.
there's some like this is the last of the. Yeah, I'll say. This is the last of the actual Akira Toriyama-esque designs in Dragon Ball that you're gonna get. Because if you've seen Super, some of those designs are kind of off, like off model, and they don't look like they'd fit like in Akira Toriyama style. But you can kind of write that off as though they're from a different universe. But this one, it's got all the good Akira Toriyama visual styles that you want,
Manga.
especially in the machines and whatnot. So yeah, pour one out for the homie because this is
Yeah.
a good final farewell to him and
Yeah.
what he's given us through his art. Yeah, good
Yeah.
series. Definitely watch it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Toast.
Oh,
Again,
I should mention. I should mention this counts as an isekai because remember they're traveling
yeah,
to
True.
a
That's
different
true.
realm
that is
altogether.
actually true. They didn't get trucked. They just voluntarily chose to go into the Isekai. But yeah, thank you very much, Toast. Again, as he's mentioned, this is sort of the send off gift of Akira Toriyama. The last sort of general work that he had full creative directorial control over before he kind of set it off for Super. Um, Seems like again the audiovisual quality was in good control, in good hands with Toei as pushing it out onto Daima. Hopefully, we'll be able to see that quality be sustained through all 20 episodes, but obviously the story itself, as well as the designs, are on point. So, if you are a fan, if you have finished at least story-wise Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, please do check this out.
Do you know why it's called Daima? Get it? It's another pun this time.
Yeah.
Get it?
All right.
Daima.
Yes, I saw the
The
comment.
great demon world.
Yes, the great
Instead of
evil,
grand
the great demons. Yes.
instead of grand tour, it's the great demon world tour. Daima
Yeah.
T.
All right. Well, anyways, thank you, Toast. And now we move on to Dark. What do you have for us?
Oh, baby, I got a quick one, and then we got a little bit of a longer one. The first one, the
Okay.
quickie. We have. How do you say this? Well,
Wait,
the English is the stories of girls who couldn't be magicians.
yeah,
So this
I can
is.
read out the.
Yeah,
This
go
is
for it.
yeah. 魔法使いになれなかった女の子の話. So this is, I believe, the abbreviation is MahoNare.
Okay.
So yeah. So again, as Dark just said, a story of girls who couldn't be magicians. Here, I
Yeah,
believe
so
this is,
this
what is it? This
is.
is JC staff. All right, this is the one of
This
the
is
10 billion
another
JC
JC
staff.
staff series.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is their worst looking one, for sure,
Oh
like
no.
100%. There are a lot of shots in this that you're like, ooh, not a lot of animation going on here, huh, guys? Or like zoom outs where you're like, ooh, these look like melted popsicles and they're not that far out. Not great.
Okay.
However, I will say, stylistically, pretty cool, pretty enjoyable. So anyway, the premise of this series is like not even really worth abbreviating that much because like it's what you would expect.
Yeah.
Our main character, Kurumi Mirai, is like wants to be a magical girl, or not a magical girl, wants to be a magician, tries to get into the magic school, ends up in the standard classes branch instead. Where you're just supposed to be doing like, it's still a great school, but you're just doing like what do you call it, like standard curriculums, like a standard major that you want to follow in.
She's not GT. She's not GT, yeah.
Yeah. So she's
She's
like,
gifted and talented, yeah.
yeah. So she's like, well, it's not even so much gifted, talented. It's just literally like, yeah, you didn't make it into the magical branch. Like you can,
Oh,
because there are
okay.
people in her class that like one of them wants to be like they're kind of like the quote unquote oddballs, where like one of them is
Hmm.
trying to become like a major engineer and like have a train station run to his like build one to run to his hometown. One is trying to be like an opera singer. Um and then like obviously like, there's a bunch of other characters. But like the whole thing is they are technically like would consider them savants to begin with, right? As at
Oh,
least
okay.
as to what it seems.
Mhm.
You know, there's like an
But
Ojo-sama
there's
that
also a
didn't get
magic
in either.
class next to a
Yeah,
okay,
so
okay.
there's like the magic class like that is, you know, like oh man, like this is what people really want to be here for
Yeah.
at this school. And so magicians in this
Hold
world
on, Dark,
use
real
like
quick, Dark.
yeah.
Does she want to become the Wizard King?
No, she just wants to become a magician. Because she
Oh.
was like saved by a magician lady when she was younger.
Yeah. This is not an
And
academy
So,
Battle Academy
she
series.
just wants to become a magician, not the Magician King,
no,
like
like
most
literally
great
This is not
any
shonens
this is
magician.
not
before.
a this is not a Battle Academy series. Toast.
Oh,
Yeah,
lame.
this is so like obviously it turns into like an oddball classmate type series. But then they wind up getting a teacher who is like this young looking teacher, Minami Suzuki, and she is effectively a magical girl in a world
Okay.
where people like magicians right now are using like weird like higher tech stuff. They cast using these like notepads that are actually like digital pads that you can like program spells into and shit like that. And she's like, yeah, you know, what we used to do is we used to draw runes. Imagine that. And so her pen becomes like a magical girl wand. And she takes on this class of like misfits and is like, yeah, I'm going to teach you guys magic, but like the real magic. So the series title is already a lie. Moment like 5 minutes into the show. The stories of girls who couldn't become magicians. One, there are boys in the show, and two, they do become
Excuse me,
magicians.
sir. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
just complete fucking lies left and right. But overall, like vibes wise, it is like a school and magical girl show rolled into one. It's pretty
Can I
fun.
ask a real quick question just to kind of center the series real quick because I know everybody else has already asked this question. How does it compare to Little Witch Academia?
I mean, Little Witch Academia is like a million times better for a lot of reasons. I think some of the
But
characters in
is
this,
it better
well,
than
this is
Mashley?
more, this is also more
Totally,
of
yeah. I'm talking about
a,
structurally, totally. Yeah.
this is also more of like a children's show slash like straight up like, you know, like children's magical girl show than it is
Oh,
like,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like full on a kid show, but like a lot of the characters, you're like, yeah, no, this is much more of like a kid show than not. And how it's set
Yeah.
up. But overall, it's not terrible.
Mhm.
Like I said, the vibes are fun. The tone is fun. The
Okay.
style is nice. I think that's really what's carrying it. Is like the style is really cool. It is like that almost like picture book, like not crayon, but like you know what you're looking at when you see like the PVs and stuff. Um, so some of it looks nice, some of it looks not that nice. Some of the magic casting shots do look pretty nice with like when the main character, so far what I'd seen in like 3 episodes is like a couple of scenes where like the elements are flowing in and stuff like that, and it looks pretty nice in that style. So you know, just another notch in the magical girl belt
Yeah.
that is this
At
season.
least it's not a
So
bad.
definitely the
At least it's not
weaker.
like a bad notch. Yeah, but it's like
Yeah,
it's
I
just
mean,
a
it's
little
definitely
bit
one of the
bland.
weaker ones,
But
but
it's
it's not. Yeah, I mean, but it's not like it's not bad. Like right, like
yeah,
if you want to see like something along the lines of, you know, I guess like Little Witch Academia, but a little bit cornier, a little bit more of
yeah.
the standard magical girl fare. And unfortunately, not the best visuals, and some characters that are annoyingly kid show tropey. Then you'll have that. Um, but not enough to make it like you know pretty solid, but not something super crazy to dig into. The only other real thing is the music's okay. OPEDs are fine, standard. OP visuals
Mhm.
are eh. nothing crazy.
Oh, okay.
The other thing worth mentioning is like kind of horrific to see, but
What?
this is the Chaos Dragon director and the
Oh no.
We Cross Diva Live director,
All right.
2021.
Well, I feel like we cross. I think we need to have we would need to have a talk. But it's like Chaos Dragon, in a sense, it
This is
was
also the
kind of
Seventh
an
Spellblades
inevitable.
director, so
All right. Well, we're
you know.
fucked. GG. Pack it up.
Yeah, so
uh, yeah, because I was about to say, if it's just like Chaos Dragon, like we cross. It was also Recross had the unfortunate problem of being this like weird. Oh, we want to co-opt like the fairies Jinx Club kind of shit, but all at the same time, it's also a multimedia card game project? Question mark. And that was weird in its own end. But like Chaos Dragon, I could have forgiven it. The Seventh Spellblade is just like no, it's got to go. Yeah.
says
So.
best series, bro. What the hell?
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, you know, not terrible. Um I'd say it's sitting at like a 6.3 on Mall is kind of appropriate, right? Like,
Suitable, yeah. Especially
yeah,
since it is a
if it
children's
had
show.
better, yeah, and if it had, well, it's not really so much children's show, but like considering it's like teetering on that tone a little bit much, then it's like,
Uh-huh.
you know, gonna lose
Okay.
points on that.
Okay.
And also, like I said, the visuals are not great at times, which is unfortunate.
Uh-huh.
Now,
Okay.
the real meat and potatoes is the anime of the year. You know, early contender here. I'm realizing now. I think I downloaded an AVIF and I that picture, so I need to get another
Oh
one
my god, not
because
like
I
this.
fucking love picture files.
I think the other one you said was, I believe, Puniru is a kawaii
Yes,
slime. I can't believe
kawaii
this
slime.
localization. Why do they not
Well,
fucking like cute in
because
the
they're really smart.
Because they're fucking
Yeah,
quirky.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's
let me try and see if I can get a picture up just to make this easier.
yeah, it's Puniru a kawaii slime, and I believe obviously
There
you
is a
can
cute slime
tell.
where Puniru is a kawaii slime. You know
Yes.
what? Fuck it. We'll go with this one. With this
Yeah.
picture. Why not? All the other ones are ass quality or an AVIF, so here's what we
Yeah.
got.
But as you can tell, this is about a Puniru, or a slime called Puniru, right? As
Yes,
well
this is about a
as.
slime named Puniru. So we have Puniru, the main character, voiced by Sasahara Yu. We
Mhm.
have Kotaro Kawaii,
Mhm.
voiced by Shichiro Umeda.
Oh,
And then
okay.
obviously
Yeah.
these are the two mains. The story here is that Kotaro, when he was a elementary schooler, was making like a just a bullshit slime craft, and it came to life. And now it's Puniru. This like I don't know what you call her. Like not really like a doting girl. She like wants to be the center of attention, wants everyone to like her. They're like her dream thing that she always goes back to is to create like Puniland, which is just going to be, you know, just dedicated to her for all of her adoring fans.
Is that kind of like Polnareff land?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so the fun thing about this show, so this is like borderline a kid show, right? But not really. Like some of the joke, like a lot of the
It's
humor
mainly
is
the
like
aesthetics
not
that kind of look at it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's mostly the aesthetics, and then the humor is not really that much of a
It
kid
kind of
show.
reminds me. It kind of reminds me the premise as well. It kind of reminds me of Urusei Yatsura, right? The way it's just um like you just have this random, not I guess monster girl in this case, kind of pop up, and it's just like, whoa, what the heck? Like, Why did her so pretty? And then it's like the whole kind of bouncing back and forth kind of business, the
Yeah,
rom-com
so
that ensues.
yeah, so it's like semi rom-com with her and Kotaro. And I would say the fun shtick that the episodes do is this has a lot of slime trivia. Like a
What do you
lot
mean by
of slime
slime
trivia.
trivia?
Oh, we're not even talking like slime girl trivia. We're talking like fucking slime. Like you guys like making slime? This is the trivia you're getting.
Wait, like
So they
actual like
literally,
real
yes,
life
like they
slime?
go over like the ingredients of slime, of making slime.
Wait, are they selling slime
Um
with this like show? What is this? Like a
I
multimedia
don't
thing?
know, but it's like the way Puniru takes different like forms, because that's like kind of the shtick, is she transforms into
Okay.
different like appearances, is
Cool.
doing different things that you would do with slime. I would say one of the funniest ones so far was she turned evil and fucked up because she got iron filings and a magnet uh caught in her, and then it turned her into like a dark form. um Supposed to be, I guess, like that, what do you call that, was that slime that's like the gray and black slime that you could put on magnets, that like the iron filings like don't shoot out of it, but it like turns all spiky and stuff, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know what
so
you're talking
like,
about. I
yeah,
just
so they
don't
do
know
stuff
the
like
name. Yeah.
that. Like they'll do like she'll do like glitter slime at one point when she needed to like they needed to like seduce another character. And then she'll turn into
So
like an
is this
One type
used?
form.
I don't really understand what the tone of this series is. Is this like so is the centerpiece is not the centerpiece, but it's like the core driving
The core
device or
driving
set of
thing
like
is
plot points
just like
is the
slapstick with
rom-com?
Puniru.
Oh, it's just
Yeah,
like
it's just
yeah,
basically like
slapstick
slapstick stuff
rom-com.
with
Okay.
Puniru.
It's more
And
comedy,
then
not
there's like
romance, right?
obviously, yeah, it's like obviously like, then there's like some, yeah, it's like it's gag humor. It's like the trivia, and then there's like some really, really,
Uh-huh.
really light rom com stuff. There's like, I mean, even then they use it as bits. Like there is the uh third year like Onesan character, Kirara Mami, where her whole thing is that she is like psychotically obsessed with child rearing, with like cute
Okay.
babies, and like working at a what do you call it, working at like a daycare center and stuff like that. Whereas like Kotaro, has, what do you call it, not like rose tinted glasses, but like, like he is like in love with her completely, and yet everyone around her can see that when she goes into like that rearing mode, she's like actually psychotic. The show like depicts her at one point as doing like, what do you call it, not really like a crab walk or something, but like, like they show her as like being like monstrous. Um
Oh, okay, okay. Just kind of like about to, yeah,
yeah,
about to
and like,
kind
yeah,
of
and like the gag
devour,
obviously
yeah.
is everyone else sees that as like, oh my god, like she's actually insane. Like I thought so highly
Yeah.
of her, but she's kind of crazy. And then Kotaro is obviously like, wow, incredible. Like she's so perfect. Like look how nice and kind she is.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, there's a lot of that. There's like obviously other supporting cast members. And yeah, a lot of it is just basically a bunch of shenanigans that happen based on Puniru and slime and
Mhm.
slime happenings.
All right. Um, I guess would you so who would you who it's kind of hard to be like I don't know. It is like there are a lot of audiences, but it's like is there like a specific audience or set of audiences who you might think might latch onto this series and then you'd be like actually don't watch this, it's not actually for you, or vice versa, is there like an audience that you think would be attracted to this sort of series?
If you like the Mimir series, if
Hmm.
you like um Yeah, I don't know. Like if you like meme series and stuff like that, then this is definitely going to be up your alley. I would argue that this is like better than a lot of like meme series that have come out in recent years. I'm not going to name any one in particular. So that's
Mm.
on you if you put one on me. You know, maybe one that came out a season or two ago, as a matter of fact. But anyway, yeah, if you're into like those types of series, if you like gag humor, I think you'll definitely like this. This feels like it's probably from, let's see, what is this, a manga original? But it feels very much of like almost like a four coma or something like that, because there are like
Yeah. I
each
thought it was
episode
that
is like
too, to be
roughly
honest.
split in half. There are obviously
Mhm.
there are through lines and like certain like plot lines that continue and lead into other gags and episodes, but ultimately it does have a lot of like mini gags as certain arcs in it.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just you know, some of the different designs and forms for Puniru are fun. And just the way they weave that into gag humor is pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. All right. I guess what rating would you give it?
Well, actually, I should probably say too, audio visuals are pretty solid.
Oh yeah.
The visuals as well, like really
Who's
are
doing this? Who's running Puniru?
these designs. This is Toho Animation Studio, so I don't
Oh,
know
okay,
if
okay,
this
okay.
studio has done anything itself. Because I know they were supporters on what do you call it? The what was this called? The medicine one? The Apothecary Diaries. It was like
Yeah,
them
the one that
and OLM.
near covered. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so I don't know
I
if this
remember
is
that.
like a spin-off of OLM. I guess it kind of is technically in a way.
Or it
Um
could be just one of the kind of not sister, but it's like daughter animation branch specific branches under the general kind of Tohei or sorry, Toho um the the parent company, right? Because Toho itself runs that sort of the general um
yeah, I guess like
a bunch
yeah,
of
I
like
guess they're
movie
like the
licensing
mini because
stuff.
it
Yeah.
looks like, you know, they're back on support for Apothecary Diaries season 2,
Yeah.
and they have like
Yeah.
a couple of like shorts and stuff that came out. So this is their first like full, I believe.
Main like yeah. Solo
Yeah,
production
yeah.
stuff.
This is because
Yeah.
this is not a short either. This is a whole ass show. Um, but yeah, it's this is a very fun show. It's very enjoyable. The audio visuals are nice and cute. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, the OP and ED are very fun. They are character songs by Puniru. The opening being called Gyumyu. I don't remember if Gyumyu is also not original, is a cover. I don't remember that. I could not find if it was. I would assume it's original. Um, but oddly, the ED is Puniru doing a cover of "Show" by Otto.
What?
Yeah, no, I linked
What?
this the other day. Yeah, it is very weird. Um,
Who's Puniru voiced by again? It's oh yeah, it's Sasahara Yu.
yeah, Sasada
Okay.
you.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I'll link it in chat if you want to click that and give that a watch.
Yeah.
Very weird. When I
I
first when I first heard it, I did like a triple take. I was like, "What? Like what are you
feel like at
why
some
the
point, like
fuck?"
now they're like using just like the popular like while they can, they're kind of just taking these kind of J-pop brands because it's like the thing is like at this point, right? At this point in time, J-pop is very big. I mean, J-pop is big, but it's not like so big that you can't like smaller studios and stuff like studios and stuff like that can't afford it, right? It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like the recent like Rose Bruno Mars kind of shit like level, right? Where it would be ridiculous to try and grab a hold of that for like a single anime OP, right? Um, but now they're just kind of taking that, at least taking the rights, and just like starting to make covers of it, and that kind of also helps gather in eyeballs online too.
Yeah,
So
here's a
I
hot
think
take
that's
for you. Thank God I don't have to hear ATP as a fucking opening.
yeah,
Like,
me
ooh,
too. To be honest,
ooh.
Gee,
Wow,
can
man. Let
Can
me
you
tell you
imagine
something.
if you just like
Oh
heard
man,
Blackpink
if
blasting
there's
through from the
dude, if
blast?
there's anything I love, it is pre Uptown Funk Bruno Mars. Just wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Great for music,
You
really. You know.
just wants to hear what is it, like New Jeans or Blackpink or whoever Aespa on
Fuck
his
me.
new Monogatari series right now. He needs those openings.
I think
He
I'd kill
needs it.
myself.
What if we watered down 2010s of fucking American pop? Anyway, yeah, that's my hot K-pop take too there for you folks.
God, we're gonna get canceled. But
But yeah, so
I
this
think
show
K-pop
show's a lot of fun.
sucks.
Yeah, I mean I do too. So we're
yeah.
we're same wavelength there.
Yeah.
But yeah, good show. Good, definitely good series. Definitely a surprise. Very odd.
Hmm.
Very odd
Yeah.
odd series to see. But
Well,
yeah.
what would you rate it?
I
overall?
think it's sitting at an okay, pretty fair score. I think like a strong 6.5. You know, something like that. Maybe bordering on a 7 is what I would give it. You know, not a must watch, but it's a goofy little show. If you've got not much else to peep, or if you just want something as like a quick little like easy watch, get a little gag humor shots in. This is one of them.
All right. Pretty
Or if you're a
good.
slime aficionado, if you really like slime.
Yeah, if you like not even talking about like necessarily just monster slimes, but we're talking about legit like
Yeah,
those like
no,
weird
specifically
ASMR
not
slimes
monster
or whatever.
slimes. Yeah, if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
like
yeah. Woo.
if you like the type of slime that came with a Hot Wheels playset, this is for you.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Wait, what rating would you give it?
Yeah, I think it's fair what it's at right now. 6.59, like a strong 6.5, maybe a
All
7,
right.
light 7. That
All
pretty solid.
right. Pretty good, pretty good. Maybe again good for a light romp. So, please do check it out if you have the time. Thank you very much. And we're gonna move on now to Near. You have a certain series for us that's also been making the rounds hit on social media.
Yeah, sure has.
Mm.
I watched Chikyuu no Undou ni Tsuite, also
Yes.
known as Orb, on on the movements of the Earth.
Yes, sir.
Um,
But near the Earth is an orb.
The Earth does not
yeah,
move.
it's true.
Yeah. Spoilers.
So, this is a Madhouse series.
Mm.
This is a historical, in big air quotes, drama.
Yeah.
About the So I'll just say right now, this series is completely 100% totally historically bullshit in terms of
Yeah.
historical accuracy. Um,
Yeah.
there's nothing about this series that is historically accurate at all. But main premise is sort of the
It's kind of like how Maria the Virgin Witch kind of ended up, where obviously that had more like supernatural stuff, but a lot of
yeah
it's like it's thematic. Or wasn't there that one anime about the arte or whatever it was, right? Um
yeah yeah
it's kind of like that where it's like it's based around the general historical time. Um but it's not really it's kind of it's spiritual. You got to
yeah
vibes it. Yeah.
Yeah, this one, I feel like this one takes it to like a whole nother level. Like if you're somebody who's like played like Assassin's Creed or something, and
Uh-huh.
you were like upset about the historical inaccuracies, I think you will have an aneurysm watching this show. Um,
Yeah.
because there's nothing about this that's based in history at all. So the basic idea is sort of this is about the uh initial sort of researching and proliferation of the theory of heliocentrism among Western scholars. Now, in real history, uh, heliocentrism was sort of uh, popularized and sort of pushed into academia by Galileo, right?
Hmm.
Um, and the church at the time was kind of like, "That's stupid. Shut up. Don't say that."
Yeah.
And they didn't really care that much because the idea that like the Earth was the center of the universe was kind of just like, yeah, like sure. And then somebody coming out with like a sort of different theory that ended up being true and had a lot of obviously had a lot of backing to it. Um, it didn't really subvert any of like the church's like ideals at all. So the church didn't really give a shit, right? They were kind of just like, that's dumb. Like, why are you trying to rock the boat or whatever?
Yeah, yeah,
But
that's the
they
biggest
didn't
part.
really,
Rocking the boat. Yeah.
yeah, they didn't really care that much, right? However, in Chi, the church is evil as fuck. Um,
And this is again, this is not even a variant, to be honest, in anime. This is like standard fare. Because a lot of times it's like, especially in these sorts of settings, medieval, whatever, feudal settings, not not medieval feudal, but it's like what era is this one? But it's like in these sorts of settings, a lot of times the standard enemy, if it's not the corrupt duke or whatever, is the church,
yeah,
pretty much.
of course.
So yeah.
Um, so yeah, the um, the sort of, I guess, idea behind this is that you have the main characters, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of main characters in this show. Sort of stumble upon research or pursue the theory and idea of heliocentrism, which is the idea that the Earth and all of the planets within our solar system revolve around the sun instead of
Mhm.
everything revolving around the Earth. Um,
Mhm.
and they have to sort of be secretive and you know um, sort of under the radar because the
Mhm.
church and the Inquisition, if they found this out, would like arrest them and kill them and burn them
Yeah.
alive for
Yeah.
heresy. Um, and obviously, historically, the church wouldn't have done that. Um, not to say that the church didn't do that for other
Yeah.
things at the time. They certainly
But they
did.
don't
They
but they don't try to hammer every single nail,
Yeah, it's
essentially.
not. It's
Yeah.
because so I will say this show isn't bad. The show is the series isn't bad by any means, but
It's a little bit cheesy, I think you
it's
wanna say.
it's if depending on how you can sort of suspend your disbelief for the way the church behaves and sort of I guess your attitudes towards
Mhm.
theology in general,
Uh-huh.
I think your mileage is going to vary wildly with the show. Um,
Yeah.
because when I was watching this, to me, it seemed a bit obvious that the author has some sort of bitter resentment towards the Christian faith and sort of theology throughout history in general.
See,
Um,
I don't, well, I don't what I think is, like, I think the author yeah, I think the author sort of has a bias, but I think a lot of the stuff in this story comes from the standard. We need not a rotating enemy, but we need an enemy in that makes sense in this premise in this setting. And obviously, again, like because of heliocentrism, versus what is the Latin name? The the
geocentrism.
Earth, yeah, geocentrism, right? Um, being involved somewhat with a church, it was a very easy target for a Japanese author to just be like, "Oh, yeah, of course, it's the fucking Christian church that is fucking shit up." It's very similar to like, um, I don't know, it's like, like people, for instance, in American literature, writing a lot of stuff that's like, these like weird corporations like fucking stuff up, or maybe sometimes racist, whatever,
I
blah
mean, this
blah.
is
A
probably
lot
this
of
is probably
common
just like
enemy
a
and
very like oversimplification or remembrance of like Galileo, right? Like just
or
being
even
like,
just like
oh, who
because
locked him
yeah
up, or in a lot of cases, people think of who killed Galileo, and it's like, no,
yeah
it was the
and also
Inquisition, not technically just the Church.
yeah
And yes, he was
and
under
also
house
it's
arrest.
this like simplification of the idea of like obviously because the Christian Inquisition and people involved were
Yeah, so I
not very
will
smart. They
say
just kind of go in.
this series does make an active, well, I wouldn't say active, but it does draw a pretty clear distinction between the Inquisition and the Church, right? These are separate sort of bodies, right?
Mhm.
So it's sort of fairly early on, it goes that like the Inquisition is more zealous than the Church is, right? But later on in
Mhm.
the series, it turns around and says, no, actually, also the Church is the one that is sort of spreading this idea that, and it's very, very, very heavy-handed later on, I will say. It gets to the point where they literally say that like I forget what the line was, but it was so on the nose. It was like comical. It was basically like if you're reading books, you're sinning, and it was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, and again, this very same thing happened in Maria the Virgin Witch as well. I want to say where it's like Maria is just like essentially depicted as like literally just I just want to live, bro. Like I'm just a witch. Like what the fuck do you want from me? And then the enemy again, the church, the Inquisition, whatever. In that case, was literally like, wow, you guys all need to be fucking destroyed. Fuck you. And it's like I guess,
yeah.
but
But for this one, I feel like it's a bit different than Maria because Maria wasn't like. So the issue with this is I should sort of get into like the characters themselves to sort of demonstrate this a bit more
the
clearly.
nuance, yeah, yeah.
So the initial main character is a young boy named Rafael. He's 12 years old, a sort of genius, gifted child, right?
Mhm.
And um, he is a bit of a manipulator, right? He finds it very easy to lie to people to sort of immediately earn their respect or get what he wants. Um, you know, he lies about wanting to study theology so he can get into the good graces of his father, who happens to be very devout to the church. Um, and when he gets into university at an extremely young age of 12, um, he says he's going to be studying theology. However, his real sort of passion that he wants to study is astrology, right? He's fascinated by the stars and their movements, right? And he ends up sort of having a discussion with a someone who has been tried for heresy, who has sort of renounced that in order to achieve forgiveness, right? To be released by the Inquisition. And through talking to this guy, uh, Ruffle discovers that, he was lying, right? He didn't renounce that at all. And he's going to keep studying um, what he's studying, right? And what he ends up studying is heliocentrism, right? Um,
Right.
and Ruffle gets pulled into this. He starts buying into it despite some, initial hesitations. And he ends up, studying it as well. However, the Inquisition finds one of Raffles' books, and this other, older scientist dude takes the fall for Raffle. And he gets
Mhm.
executed, and he sort of, um, goes through some shit where he's like, is this even worth doing? What should I do?
Yeah.
Um, and then the Inquisition ends up finding that it was actually Raffle that was studying this shit, right? So he
Mhm.
gets arrested, And the Inquisitor is basically like, you've got your whole life ahead of you, dude. If you just like, you
Stop studying. Stop
yeah, like
sciencing.
if you just stop studying this shit, you could just go to university, study theology. We don't have to do this.
Mhm.
And as he's in prison, Raffle is like debating, should I just like give this shit up and like do whatever, or should I like stick by my guns, right? Um,
Mhm.
and he ends up sticking by his guns. In his court hearing, he's like, I believe in this shit. I'm based as fuck. Do
Yeah.
whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Um, and he ends up poisoning himself in prison, and he dies,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then this series does a 10-year time skip, um, which
Okay.
is pretty wild. And then the second main character, uh, Oxy,
Cloud
who's
Atlas? What the
yeah,
fuck?
there's a lot of shit going on in this series, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
But I will say it does flow pretty well. It's not like
Yeah, it
it
flows better
doesn't
than
feel
Cloud Atlas.
yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel busy at all.
Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive. But the second main character, Oxy, is a sort of um mercenary, right? He works for basically nobles will sort of challenge each other to duels and stuff, and these other nobles will hire these dudes to fight for them, basically, so they don't have to put their
Mhm.
lives in danger. Um, and Oxy suffers from a sort of existential. I don't really want to say it's not really nihilism, but it's like he sort of suffers from this existential idea that um, because in his youth, a priest told him that because the world is the center of the universe, right? And because of that,
Mhm.
every bad thing in the universe gravitates towards the earth. And the reason for this is because God made the earth to teach humanity that, sin is, like basically the world fucking sucks, right? And the reason is
Mhm.
of this is because humanity is like irredeemable, basically, which is definitely things that the church wouldn't say. I will say that much.
Yeah.
But he has this
Obviously,
idea
there are
that
always extremists, but it's not like standard teachings
yeah,
necessarily. Yeah.
it's not like it's like
I don't know really
typically
how well they would spread if the first thing you walk in and they're like, "Yeah, by the way, this is a
Everybody's fucked. Yeah.
shithole and
yeah,
everything's
like the world is a
Yeah.
fucked.
shithole and everything is bad and
God's smiting
nothing
your
is
ass
good
either
and God
way."
hates you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it's a not really the way that the Christian faith is taught, but sure, go off. But he has this idea that the only way that anything good will happen to him is in heaven, basically, right? Because the world
Mhm.
as it is fucked, right? Like there's nothing good in the world. Um, and through his sort of partner that he works with this mercenary gang, they end up stumbling upon um, Raffles' notes, which are sort of hidden in the forest. It's like this whole series of events. I don't really want to. It's not too important on how they discover it, but they discover these notes, and his partner ends up dying, right? And his partner's like, "Listen, man, this shit's really important to me. Um, it's very obvious it's not important to you, but it's really important to me. And like as my dying wish, I kind of want you to like, take these notes and take them to, somebody who's able to like study them and, like sort of spread this, somehow, right? And show that there's you know, um like goodness in the world, basically, right? Like there is a sort of the idea that the earth and heaven are sort of um uh like commingling, right? Like the earth is one with the heavens, right? It's not that like the earth is just this singular point in the universe and then the heavens are like completely, separated from mankind, right? That the idea
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
the earth, sort of swims within the heavens, right? Is sort of how they depict it. And so Oxy's like, okay, I guess I'll do that. And he ends up meeting this monk named Bedeni. And Bedeni is a scholarly dude who really likes to study, and he's also really arrogant. He's got this sort of um, this idea that he's one of these sort of great men in history who's out there to change the universe, right? And like if he just studies hard enough, he'll discover this like the secrets of God's vision, basically. Um, and his sort of issue is um, when he looks at the stars and he sort of tracks the movements of planets through the sky, he notices that occasionally um, they pointed this out with Mars specifically, is that once every 2 years, if you track the placement of the movements of Mars throughout the sky, once every 2 years, it moves sort of backwards, right? Um, and obviously we know this because, the Earth rotates the sun and Mars rotates the sun at different speeds, right? And so, every once in a while, the orbits will be in such a position to where Mars's position in the sky sort of goes backwards for a little bit before it
Yeah, the
returns
orbits
to
only the revolutions only make
yeah,
sense if you consider heliocentrism, essentially.
yeah. And so Benini's idea or sort of gripe with the idea of geocentrism is how could God create a system where everything is sort of harmoniously moving around the earth, except for sometimes where it seemingly decides to move backwards for no reason at all, right? Um, and so Oxy seeks out Bedini, they find the notes together, and then it sort of becomes this weird journey where Benini's, sort of studying these notes for his own sort of pursuit of knowledge. And then through that, Oxy is sort of discovering the idea that, the Earth isn't entirely a complete fucked up shithole. And it does, in fact, commingle with the heavens. And, maybe there is actually goodness in this world and stuff like
Yeah,
that. There's other
yeah.
characters and stuff. There's a lot of characters in the show. But that is sort of the main idea in that, through this sort of study of the heavens and stuff, Oxy sort of his worldview uh, becomes, a bit less uh, depressing and nihilistic, right? Um,
So
and
it's
it's
very interesting because this is because you would think that from the first arc, right? The whole point of this series is sort of it's not even really about the whole like heliocentrism or the Earth. It could be any science story, right? But it's like the whole point would in the first arc would be this fight for like uh independent thought versus the cruel orthodoxy of the church or whatever it is, right? So that
yeah,
was like the
that's
initial
definitely
theme.
sort of
But
an aspect. I think that's sort of Bedeni's kind of motivation.
Mhm.
But I do think the sort of idea of like uh, the pursuit of the truth can sort of change your worldview on certain things,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
the
This
idea of
that
sort
was
of
more
being
represented in this arc, right?
yeah the
Than
idea
yeah.
of sort of being narrow-sighted within uh quote unquote religious dogma can can really uh impact the way you view the world, and it can do a lot of harm on your mental health, right?
Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
but yeah, it's an interesting take. It's an interesting sort of idea to tackle. Um, again, I do think this series is pretty good. Like the characterization here is quite good. I think the characters are pretty good. Everybody's pretty grounded, except for some of the priests and stuff. Even the main um, Inquisitor dude, Nowak, he's like the sort of main um, antagonist throughout the series, and like he's like because they make a pretty uh clear distinction that like he's not part of the church, right? Like he's not really that
Mhm.
much of a believer, obviously, because it's like it's like fucking 14th century, like indistinct Europe, right? He believes in God, right? Like he believes in
Yeah.
God and the faith and the church, but like he's not really like doing it for the sake of God, right? Like he's kind of just doing it because he's a former soldier. It's solid, stable work. It's something that he's good at, right? Um, but yeah, like like his motivations are he's not like cartoonishly evil, like he's an inquisitor, but he's
Yeah.
kind of doing it just as like sort of like the idea that if you just let um these quote unquote heretics sort of say whatever the fuck they want, then the sort of um the uneducated peasantry, right? They're like, if these ideas spread, then
Yeah.
obviously the church will be destabilized, and chaos can come from that, stuff like that. So his sort of idea is more of like a keeping order kind of thing, and less of like,
Mhm.
yeah, I just love fucking arresting and torturing and killing people, man. It's so cool. Um, so the characters here are quite good. They're quite interesting. It's just the idea that like, um, I guess just like the basic premise that like the church would just be so vitriolic about like the idea of like studying, the movement of the stars is just like it kind of takes you out of it, right? Um,
Again, I
because
think
like
that's just a consequence of. I feel like it's a lot less. There is a bias, but I think it's a lot less conscious, like specific bias, and more just like coming from a place of simplicity is how I want to put it in very charitable words. So it's like, yeah, we need this enemy, and obviously in this premise, the enemy to just be like, oh fuck you all, is the um is the church, and in this sense, sort of the Inquisitor that's like a little bit more human in this sense, right? Is sort of like the stormtroopers, like how it's like the stormtrooper, one of the stormtroopers that occasionally gets made into like a side story in Star
yeah,
Wars, in the Star
yeah.
Wars universe, right? It's like that essentially. It's like that equivalent. So I think it's mainly coming from that rather than.
I feel
I
like
mean, it.
have you watched any of this?
I watched like the first couple of episodes, but I
Yeah.
have not.
Again, I do feel like the scene between Bethany and the priest is where I got most of this idea that like the author, again, I don't think it's a thing of where the author's like, I hate Christianity. I hate Christianity. But I do think
Yeah.
he has this sort of whether conscious or not, this sort of bias against, you know, um theology and sort of he definitely has a sort of idea that like the idea of theology being sort of ruling over a sort of the idea of theology being a ruling body of government, right? Like
Hmm.
he definitely sees that as like a very much a negative thing, right?
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
because there's definitely a few scenes where it's like um there's one where it's like, if you guys keep um if you guys keep sort of like censoring, research, speech, investigation into certain things, then um, there will become like different factions of the church, and the church will end up having like a civil war because it can't decide on what it should be studying or whatnot, and the idea that like the church being so anti, you know, uh, like free ideals, it'll sort of bring itself down from the inside. Um,
Hmm.
and it sort of paints this picture of the church being like so like almost like maliciously like controlling of um what anybody can and can't say or think, that sort of leaves the realm of like, oh, they're just like a villain for us, and it's more of like, oh, this guy like this guy like straight up doesn't like religion, right?
Yeah.
And again, I don't think it's like a conscious thing that the author is doing. And I'm not really
But
necessarily saying
I
it's like
think I think it all also came together, right? Because it's like it's not just this, but it's not just like the bias he has, obviously, but I think it's also um the fact that he picked this premise specifically, right?
yeah,
And this
yeah,
premise is a very much an accelerant to an obvious, oh, like, well, the church is fucking these guys over kind of story, right?
yeah. And again, I don't think it's necessarily like hurting the narrative or anything, but
Hmm.
again, like I said, depending on the way you view sort of theology, especially how you um look back at like medieval theology and stuff, right? Like how far you're able to sort of suspend your disbelief in the way the church behaved in history and the way the church behaves in this series, it can sort of take you out of it in some scenes. I don't think it's necessarily an overall negative, but I do think it's something that uh, it did sort of stick out to me.
Right, right,
But
right.
again, I don't think it ruins anything. Um, it is just sort of something that I was like, huh, I don't think this author likes religion. um, but yeah, like I said, all the characters and stuff are really good. The fact that like this series is going through like so many different characters and it's going through like time jumps and you know stuff like that. It's jumping around quite a bit and it doesn't feel like disorienting at all. It's quite impressive, right? Like it is well written, I will say. Um,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
just
I mean,
it's
I think
very
even just taking on this premise itself is like not something that I think, your standard run of the mill, not okay. Oh, my Japanese protagonist got isekai by truck. Like that sort of author would not be able to take on this premise. I'm just gonna say it flat out. So
yes.
I think, yeah.
Um, it is just a sort of odd decision to sort of make this premise and be like, I'm not going to be historically accurate at all. It's a bit of an odd choice. I don't think it's a bad choice necessarily, but it is an odd one for sure. Um, again, your mileage is going to vary wildly depending on how much that bugs you. To me, it doesn't bug me that much, because it is sort of just a story. Like I said, they don't even specify like where in the world this is. Obviously, it's Europe because like uh, they do they don't I don't think they straight up say it's like Christianity or Catholicism or whatever. But they do reference the Pope, so you know it's like it's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, overall for the story, I do think it's pretty good. But again, it's a it's hard to really um quantify like objectively. I think because again, I do think it's really up to the viewer in terms of like how much they're going to be able to sink their
How
teeth
much you
into with
don't
this
like,
one.
yeah, don't like parts of the exaggerated portions and what they mean in the overall message.
Yeah.
Can I also Uh, so this is already like essentially two arcs now, right? Do you think it's going to, this is supposed to be what, 25 episodes or something like that?
Yes, 25
Um,
episodes.
do you think this is going to be again something like a full Cloud Atlas omnibus style series where you have like five different arcs and like sets of protagonists, or what?
Um, I don't know. So right now, obviously the initial character's dead, right? Um, they've time skipped. So there's Oxy and Bedeni, and then there's the Inquisitor dude who's not really necessarily a main character, but he does get his own, sort of scenes, right?
Mhm.
And then in the recent episodes, they've sort of been dipping into this Jolenta character, who's this sort of young girl who, um, wants to be a sort of researcher in astronomy, right? And she's sort of looked down upon because she's a woman, right? Um,
Mhm.
but obviously, she has the support of the one. Um, I forget if he's a like part of the church or not, but he basically she's working under him and he's sort of supporting her and sort of trying to build up her confidence, and sort of teach her the idea that even if people sort of stand in your way, um, for like no good reason at all, and that being the fact that she's a woman, like there's no reason she can't be a researcher just because she's a woman, but obviously because it's fucking 14th century Europe,
Yeah.
right? Like people are gonna look down at her just for that. So obviously she has her arc going on. I don't really think it's gonna go. I don't think that. I don't know, right? Because I haven't looked too far into like what the story does in the manga. But I don't think it's gonna do another time skip. I feel like it's probably gonna focus on these sort of this like core
You think so?
cast,
Okay.
probably.
So you think the initial arc was more of like a prelude kind of thing, like an appetizer almost like.
Sort of, yeah. I think it was kind of 'cause you know how like Vinland Saga has like the time skip, right? And even something like um I don't know, like Metal Gear Solid 2, right? It has um like the Solid Snake segment at the beginning, and then it sort of does this sort of twist where it's like actually this is about Raiden, right?
Mhm.
I think the author was kind of trying to pull something like that, where it's like, yeah, this is a manga about a young boy, and he wants to study the stars, right? Um, and then the twist is that it's like, well, the Inquisition caught him, and now he's fucking dead, right? So I think that's that initial uh sort of prologue is sort of kind of, I guess it's a way to set up the stakes, right? In the idea that the church is sniffing out heresy pretty much everywhere, um, and that doesn't really matter who you are. If you get caught, you're fucked, right? And then it's sort of it's that sort of initial setting up the stakes, and then it's a bit of I don't want to say shock value because I feel like that's cheap, but it is sort of like oh shit, like the main character is dead, right? Like anything can happen, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
okay. Yeah, just to emphasize, like, it's not quirky, it's just being like, okay, like, we're not gonna try to save the main protagonist from we're not
yeah,
gonna give him
yeah,
plot armor when he's literally in front of the fucking court of the Inquisition. Like, that's not gonna be a
yeah, and
thing.
it's also an
Yeah.
interesting dynamic because it goes from Raffle, who's like this literal, like he's like a young genius, right? And it
Uh,
literally makes a point to be like, yeah, like I could talk my way out of fucking anything, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then when the Inquisition finds him, he he can't do that, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, he's
you're
like, "Oops."
fucked, dude. Like you're in
Yeah,
you're in a
exactly.
fucking jail cell, right?
Yeah.
And then it transitions from him to Oxy, who is a mercenary, who can't even read, and he's got this very sort of, um, down in the dumps, sort of depressed outlook on the world, right?
Mhm,
It's a very interesting sort of shift, right?
mhm.
And so I think that helps um, with sort of setting up the initial story as well. Again, I do think the characters in this are really really good, but um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's tricky to be super objective with this one. Um,
Yeah. Again, because there's a lot of exaggerations made in order to further the sort of fictional character and emotional aspects of the story, right?
yeah.
So,
Um,
how you want to go over the audio visuals real quick? Because I know this is a Madhouse series, right? Or this is
yeah,
the Madhouse series.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think this is the only Madhouse series. Is this the only Madhouse
Um,
series of the season? I believe.
I think they're doing what was it, that uh Trillion game as well? They're doing that this
Oh
season,
yeah, I
right?
forgot about that. Yes, yes, yes. You're
So
correct.
so yeah, Madhouse is a bit split here. As for audio visuals, there's not really too much to, again, this is like a historical drama. Things are pretty lax. The animation itself is decent. It does its job, right? It's not like anything super impressive. I will say there are some scenes in this series that are like, I feel like I was looking at a black screen. Like some of the cuts in this
What?
are really dark, like really dark. Like there are some scenes where it's like they're walking through the woods at night, and it was just like I can't see it. I can't see anything.
What the
Um,
this is kind of like the same problem that was mentioned when Toast was covering the one with like the undead unwanted adventure or whatever it was, right? It was
yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
that where it's like everything is just like a dark dungeon everywhere or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
but this
Yeah.
is like it's really dark. And
Yeah.
there's like a short like fight scene in the dark in one of them, and it's like I can't I can't follow any of this, you know. Um, so there's some unfortunate art direction choices, I will say. Um, I do think the palette overall, the color palette works really well for the setting. It's pretty bleak, pretty muted. Um, it's very Europe, I will say. Um, um, the music is pretty good, I will say. Um, it's fairly, um, sort of what you would expect for the setting. But it fits.
Mm.
It's fairly immersive, as it were. Um, you know, I think Usho Kensuke is actually working on this. But
He did a lot of different stuff. He did, Chainsaw. He helped with Chainsaw Man. He helped with Boogie Pop, the recent Boogie Pop Don Don Don.
yeah, um,
A lot of different stuff.
yeah,
So I think he's a pretty good OST guy actually, because
yeah,
there
for
are a lot
sure.
of these like yeah.
He definitely seems to be the current sort of just go-to right now, where it's like, oh,
Yeah,
you need a music guy, just get Usho Kensuke,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. He did
Um,
Heike Monogatari
yeah,
stuff too.
yeah,
So
for
yeah.
sure. Um, but yeah, the music's quite good. Um, the OP is Kaiju by Second Action. Um, I'm a big fan of Second Action, so it's cool to see them in an anime OP. The OP visuals themselves are a little bit boring. Um, it's kind of just like a sort of montage of the characters sort of
And
walking,
the storyboarding,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty standard stuff. I will say it was a neat little trick how in episodes 2 and 3, um, Raffle is in the start of the OP, and after episode 3, Oxy is at the start of the OP because he's the new main character, right? It was a cute little um, you know, visual switcheroo. Um, the ED is Aporia by Yorushika.
Mhm.
It's pretty standard. Nothing really to write home about. But yeah, overall, audio visuals they do the job, right? It's
Mhm.
Madhouse, so they don't look bad by any means, but also it's Madhouse, so I feel like they could have done a better job. Um, but for a series like this, I feel like there wasn't necessarily too much incentive to go super far above and beyond, but it would have been nice to see, obviously. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, they do the job. They're good.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay. Overall, what would you any closing words and what rating would you give it?
um, so I do think it's now this isn't really necessarily this doesn't really have, but it's a bit of an aside, I will say. But a lot of the reviews I've seen for this, both on Mall and outside of Mall, stuff like Twitter, um, you know, some 4chan discussion threads, stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
I see a lot of people, very odd to me. A lot of people sort of open the discourse with this series um, as like, you know, if you're really sick of isekai, you should check this out.
I literally did a double take right now. What?
And to me,
Okay.
I'm like, what? Like,
That's
I don't
yeah, that is nothing to do with
understand.
it.
I really don't understand the correlation here. But I've been seeing it a lot where it's like, yeah, man, the isekai this season suck, so you should check this out. And it's like, I don't I don't get
Yeah,
it.
it's like
Like,
I
I
I mean, it's
don't
got
know
I
everything.
also
It's
if
feel
got
like that's
an
I
Earth.
don't
It's
know. Yeah,
got
I don't know if
the
isekai
church.
fans are like so genuinely brain rotten that they just see like a sort
everything
of
has to be connected back to isekai. Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
just
just
sort of like a Western medieval setting that it's like, oh, this is like isekai, right? It's like,
that's also
no.
why this also points out their this is also a blow up over their constant like raising their pushing up their eyeglass and being like, oh, excuse me, sir, technically not an isekai because the
Yeah.
dude, while he is a power fantasy MC in a medieval fantasy thing, and he gets all these powers and blah blah blah, he's technically didn't get isekai from Japan. Well, it doesn't clearly doesn't matter because now you're making comparisons structurally of stuff that's not related to him being reincarnated, right? It's just the medieval
Yeah.
setting. You're
Yeah.
comparing within the isekai structures. So yeah, I think that's very interesting, and that also draws parallels to, I mean, even now when people are say, um, you're taking like these like rom-com situations or like some stuff that may have like a little bit more heavy romance, something that might be a little bit leaning towards a shoujo magazine reading audience, right? So like stuff like that, and people will be like, excuse me, this guy is a Chad. So if you want to actually read a manga with a Chad male character, male protagonist, instead of those beta males like blah blah
Yeah.
blah, whatever other rom coms, then you should check. It kind of reminds me of those parallels, to be honest.
Yeah, a little bit.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, it
So
was just a very odd sort of trend that I was noticing in the discourse for this series.
uh,
It's just odd. Um, but yeah, overall, I do like the show. I think it's good.
mhm,
It's tricky to rate because again, um, I think it's good. I think it's well written. But I
mhm,
do think the choices to make this just like not even remotely historically accurate at all, yet still sort of um, propping itself up as a historical drama. I think
mhm.
that's gonna turn like a lot of people are gonna turn their noses up at it, right?
Right, right, right.
So personally, I'd probably give this like probably 7.5, maybe an 8. It's sitting at an 8.2 right now on Mall, which is really high
Mhm,
for Mall. Uh, it's sort of tricky to get sort of a pulse on the like general consensus of this series because again, a lot of people are like weirdly comparing this to Isekai. A lot of people are a lot of I see a lot of like red flags when I see people talking about this show. Like it's really deep and it's philosophical and it's mature, and I'm like, I don't trust your opinion when you say those
yeah,
words, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. It's adult,
so
bro.
It really
It's like a
asks
secret
a
way of
lot of
saying
the
like this
tough
is an adult
questions, like
series.
what if the Earth was round and
yeah,
like
like what if the Earth
went
like
round the
was
sun?
moving?
That'd be
What if like
Whoa.
crazy.
the church was like sometimes wrong on stuff, and you're like,
Yeah, that's
okay,
crazy.
like what do you,
Like, what if
like where are you going with this?
what if religious dogma was bad? And it's just like,
Yeah,
yeah.
very curious.
So it's kind of hard to get a idea of like if people like this series because like they genuinely see the like the good character writing, or
Mm.
if they're like
They're just
unironically like
checking it off to
they're
be
like
like,
r slash
yeah,
atheisming this series, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. They're
It's
they're just
tricky.
trying to jerk off because this series sounds slightly smarter than your average very brain dead series, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah,
Again, I like the show. I think it's pretty good. I think 7.5 is fair. Um,
okay.
but it's again, it's hard to recommend because like if you recommend this to anybody that has any sort of like interest in history, especially like European history, um,
Yes, yeah.
they're like they're gonna watch this and be like, this is fucking bullshit, right?
Mm,
So you really kind of have to suspend your disbelief when watching this. But I do think the characters are very well written. Um,
mm.
so
Okay.
yeah, it's a complicated one for sure. Um,
Alright. Well, again, I guess that was it. Then thank you very much, Near. I know, again, this was not an easy series to cover by any sense of the word, just because, I mean, the premise alone, but also um, to provide a proper kind of literary structural kind of analysis of it and not just be like, kind of get sucked into what you were implying just now, where it's like the jerking off to, oh, it's the church against the free thinking, and kind of getting too stuck on that part.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, this was again the one of two Madhouse series of this season, or on the movements of the Earth, Chikyuu no Undou ni Tsuite. This is a manga original, I believe, by Uoto. So both story and art by Uoto. He did like one or two series before this, I believe, but yeah, this is his an anime adaptation of his manga, one of his manga works. So yeah, if you like y- if you like a series that kind of talks about, sort of like the free thought and how kind of going outside of the box kind of help change the perspectives of different fictional characters and how they develop in more organic ways, and having that centered around a more unique premise, right? Then please do check this out. And we round out this season, I guess, with my series. And my series has also been making the rounds a decent amount on social media. At the start, and up until very recently, I did not want to cover this series at all. But due to some statements I saw, I decided to cover it, and now I'm here. I am covering Tsuma, Shougakusei ni naru, also known as If My Wife Became an Elementary School Student, also abbreviated as TsumaSho. So this is a manga original by author Murata Yayu. He's done some other works with this sort of similar premise of like time skips and stuff like that, or at least supernatural themes such as Unjo ni Utaite Kimi o Matsu, as well as Okashiki Sekai no Kyoukai-sen. So a lot of these sorts have supernatural themes and stuff like that in them. The anime production is led by uh, Saint Signpost or Street Signpost, Saint Signpost, Street Signpost, I want to say, Studios, who has overseen production for Kingdom season 3 through 5. Most recently, I believe 1 or 2 seasons ago, My Clueless First Friend. They worked on some smaller stuff such as like Oda Cinema Nobunaga, but mostly their work has been involved with being subcontractors for stuff like in between or second key animation work. They are getting some help in terms of photography and 3D CGI and in their animation production by Graphitica Studios, who longtime listeners of this podcast might know they are pretty standard and prolific standard subcontractor for stuff like photography work, as well as to a slightly lesser extent working on 3D CGI as well as CG composition work. So that they've been kind of working that in a little bit more in the recent years, but most of their main work and portfolio is in photography work. So for this anime adaptation, Street Signpost brought together veteran director Noriyuki Abe alongside a bunch of people from sort of who has like a variety of experience. So some people are sort of newer entries into the industry up until you have people with just some a decent amount of experience, I want to say, throughout the years, but none of these are sort of stand out super veteran prolific names, especially in terms of like recent works. So a lot of the I want to say this is a little bit more of a slight hodgepodge of slightly lesser experienced staff working on this series, which is a very interesting composition to have underneath Noriyuki Abe. So Noriyuki Abe, for those of you or who might not know, he helped direct a lot of the later Bleach and Black Butler movies and OVAs. He was the director for Great Teacher Onizuka, GTO. He worked on Yu Yu Hakusho stuff. He was director for Tokyo Mew Mew, Flame of Rekka, Rekka no Hono, as well as Hero Legend of Arslan. So he is quite a prolific director. And again, he brings together this sort of hodgepodge group of people who are not necessarily all like super veterans, but have some experience under their belt. In terms of the voice acting cast, the main sort of two characters, I want to say the the male character as well as the husband in this case, as well as the reincarnated wife, quote unquote reincarnated wife, are voice acted by two prolific veterans of the industry. The wife in question, voiced by Yuki Aoi, who is sort of obviously a very good fit for this role because she's pressed upon to act out both the older wife role, right? The adult wife role, as well as the kid role. And guess which voice actress is very good at doing both a more older adult role, especially now that she's gotten on in age, as well as doing a kid role, right? Like a bratish kid role. It is Yuki Aoi. So, pretty much a perfect fit if you want to find an A-list actress for this role. But yeah, it was very good. She's able to do this bit of a deeper adult tone for the reincarnated adult wife in those adult scenes or in the adult wife scenes. Um, Especially since again she's gotten on age and she has that sort of like deeper voice now available to her, but she's also able to pull out this sort of bratty kid voice when she needs to, which is very convenient since they don't need to hire different voice actresses, right? Uh, so her older voice does almost not sound like Yu-Gi-Oh! It does almost sound like a separate character, but she does fail to hide her Yukiao's unique inflections. And those of you who don't, those of you who know Yukiao know what I mean when I say like these like unique inflections, like where she kind of like has like unique like register, like kind of like tonal thing in her voice. That sort of like keeps popping up here and there at times. So it was almost a good try, but it's like she still has that like Yuki voice, which is interesting. The main male character is the husband in this case is voiced by Hirakawa Daisuke. You guys might know him through his three most famous roles in Ryugazaki Rei in Free, Makoto in the infamous School Days, as well as Kakyoin in JoJo Stardust Crusaders. He as well as he does a lot of like supporting roles in other series such as like Enmu and Demon Slayer. But yeah, those two prolific veterans are kind of buffeted by um, mostly an experienced cast of like veterans, with the exception of like a couple of newer up and comers in supporting cast roles, such as Nomura Maiko and Okazaki Kana, doing a couple of the smaller roles there. So that's sort of it. Sort of the two prolific veterans kind of really taking the lead in this case. Going over to the OPED and the audio visuals here, the opening is I Know Reunion by Apache. So Pache is a three-man J-pop band out of Osaka. They sort of self-label themselves as a quote-unquote hybrid city pop group band or style, right?
Uh-huh.
It is a very interesting composition, especially the main vocal line. The song itself isn't bad, but I want to say the overall storyboarding of the opening is very slow and early 2000s kind of style, where it's just like oh this character is running along the hill or running along the road, and then another character gets introduced, and then the characters are eating bentos or they're at an amusement park, and it's a very like standard like slow this is this character, this character, this that character kind of thing that you would see in like again a standard 2000s rom-com kind of style anime series. um the storyboarding doesn't really fit. I don't think it fits the song very well, which is unfortunate. And I think overall, it's just the visual OP part is a little bit mediocre. The ending is the song is Hidamari by Miss Oja. Miss Oja is a hip hop slash R&B singer songwriter out of Nagoya. In this case, she sings a very standard, slower ballad style J-pop and song. I would say it's both composition in terms of the song as well as the storyboard are both very nondescript. It's just kind of what you would see. It's a lot of like slow cuts, like PowerPoint cuts of, not PowerPoints, but static cuts of like them kind of sitting next to each other or looking at each other or sitting by the hill or by the riverside or whatever stuff like that, right? These very like romantic, sappy scenes. But it's really nondescript. It's something that you've seen in a slice of life or a rom com ED or a romance ED a billion times. So both are both OPED, pretty nondescript here. Excuse me. Going over to the audio visuals real quick. The OST is nondescript. I'll just get that out of the way. And I want to say when it goes into the dramatic scenes, the the brass comes in way too strong. The brass, I was just like, I'm just like watching the scene where the husband is learning about the truth of the situation of this like supernatural premise situation, and it's like this orchestral, the violins are stirring up, and usually what happens is um usually what happens in these sorts of moments, like a very standard orchestral thing to do is like you would have maybe like some sense, but it's like a lot of it would be like violin or general like strings tremolo, and you would be like, it would be like a suspense kind of thing, like right, like while he's like learning of the drama, right? But for some reason in this case, you have like while I was listening, it's just like, wait, like why is the brass so loud in the background? It's just like it's very it's a little bit too big and like on the nose for me in terms of these situations. So I think the OST was a little bit weird. Other than that, it's very nondescript overall. I wasn't too impressed by it. In terms of visuals, the models themselves are pretty standard. They match up pretty decently with the original character designs. But in terms of the lines that are drawn in terms of like the animation frames, right? The as well as the shading, as well as the tones and the palettes of the different character models seem to be done with a lot of CG and maybe potential AI tech, and it kind of makes it look like each of the character models look like one of those like 4K. They popped out from one of those like 4K remaster videos, right?
Uh-huh.
The biggest thing though, and this even like this is not this wouldn't be a really criticism in and of itself. These character models sit in direct contrast with just like the very standard like pastel kind of style background art. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where it's like the trees are all have like the oil painting kind of
Yeah.
pastel, like like lack of lines, right? Art, and it creates this like weird jarring effect that I don't really like, where it's like the character models are all very clearly defined and like they have this like gloss, right? Um, but then the background art is just like, oh, it's just kind of like trees. So it's a very weird contrast that I'm not really sure that I like. I think um the other stuff in terms of like the 3D modeling of the inanimate objects and so on are done fine, because obviously I think they're being headed by like Graphinica and so on, right? But um let me actually but yeah, it's like uh the 3D inanimate models and so on are all fine, but it's like a lot of the shading is a little bit weird. um the animations themselves, like when characters are running and so on, look actually pretty smooth, and the way the blending is done with like 3D models when the action is actually required is pretty well done, again as expected of working with Graphinica. But I think this just like sometimes the way the character models are done, like look at this like sort of shading here, right? I just posted it. uh it's like there's this like weird contrast between the character models and the background art that it's like bugging me.
Yeah, I see
But
what you mean, where it's kind of like, especially this,
yeah.
like the businessman by the sign, he kind of just looks like
Y-
he's sort of layered there.
yeah. Like the model himself isn't bad, but it's like then you see the background on it, you're like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Like kind of thing. So that was a little bit unfortunate in terms of the visuals, I want to say. So last, I guess we'll move on to the story. And I said last, but this is like the biggest part of the review because TsumaSho is a lot to unpack. N- so I want to say beforehand, disclaimer, I have not read the manga original. I believe Toast has. He can, clue me into stuff as I talk, but I have not read the manga original. So take that as you will. Um, so the
We should also
TLDR.
make a disclaimer that you're not a pedophile.
Yeah, I am also not a fan of it. Just getting that out there. So TLDR, the main character, the male protagonist slash husband, Niichiba Keisuke, has lost his beloved wife, Takae, 10 years ago. So after that, he was like, he's been all gloomy all day. He doesn't talk to anybody at the company. He's just like, oh, whatever. He's not very productive, and he also like barely cares for his daughter. Right? It's not like he like hates her or whatever, but it's like essentially they're just living in the same house, but they're not like he's not caring for his daughter. Who I believe her name is Mai. Yeah. So they're essentially just stopped in time. They're like dead dead men walking or dead daughter walking, whatever. Um, so every day is kind of gray and drab and gloomy because the wife passed away until a kid appears in front of Nijima's house, appears in front of the husband and daughter's house, and claims that she is the reincarnation of the wife, Takai. And then from there, these sorts of like character developments happen where they talk with each other. There's like a lot of discussions and conversations, and the daughter and the husband kind of have brighten up their lives, talk with the reincarnated wife on like what's been going on, like how should they move forward. They start expanding, like the story starts world building, adds in new characters, adds in new members of the cast, like the reincarnated wife, because she's like an elementary school girl, right? She obviously has her own family, so there's like developments on that side. And then the daughter starts, not necessarily networking, but she starts meeting new people, and there's developments there. And the guy, the main protagonist, the male character, goes around, interacts with all these different cast members. He also has people at work that he interacts with, and that sort of world building in terms of characters develops there. And so that's the sort of general flow. And in general, the uh, there's like slice of life episodic stuff at the beginning, but for the most part, it develops into general like larger arcs. So it's like you'll have an arc of like 4 or 5, however many episodes, and then another arc of like X episodes. It's sort of how the structure is in the anime. But yeah, it's mainly composed of arcs that are focused around one or two characters' developments. So, but yeah, uh, again, I guess second disclaimer here that I forgot to do earlier on. I'm not averse to watching a series with premises that may seem like it crosses the line initially, right? Or even if it does just fully cross the line, right? Like I've watched Yosuga no Sora. I've watched Akisora. I've watched, all this stupid shit, right? Kodomo no Jikan. Did I watch the
Yeah,
anime? I think I watched
I'd be
I think I
surprised.
read the manga. Yeah.
I thought Ritsu would have made you watch that
Yeah,
by
force me.
force.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like I've watched this stuff, but um obviously the degenerate part aside, when I'm actually trying to review a series like this, I have slightly higher expectations because it has to uphold a premise that is initially less appealing for me to watch, right? So it has to have correspondingly a greater draw for me to continue to watch it, right? So that's just a second disclaimer out of the way. Um, Going into the analysis, again, I don't want to spoil too much. The premise is obviously a little bit weird and railroaded because duh, an elementary schooler freaking appears in front of your house, in front of the MC's house, and it's like, I'm your wife. It's like, it's railroaded, right? Um, and
What's the
the
lore
problem is
behind
like
that? Did she
the
just
lore
like
behind that.
appear, or did she like take over another child's consciousness?
It's the latter. It's spoilers, I guess, but it's like
Damn,
it's the latter.
that's
But
fucked up.
um, but it's like not really that important though ultimately. But it's like the ending result depends the ending result and how this kind of resolves at the end of the day depends a lot of the ultimate interactions and the character development of the three characters, the wife, the husband, and the daughter, obviously. um the issue is it's like the theme, or like how the story should quote unquote be resolved, right, is sort of already set up 90% of the way in the first episode, in the first conversation, and the initial kind of um love triangle slash romance subplot setup. So obviously the MC had so the main character, male husband, right? The husband has a coworker, a female coworker at the office that is in love with him, and obviously that becomes a kind of romance subplot. Like, will they? Won't they? Kind of. Oh, but I have a wife, and she's like the spirit of her is in this child, and like I like talking to her, and like what the hell is this kind of thing? So that becomes a subplot, and then
It's fucking
um
weird. It's
yeah, and then the wife kind of tells off both the husband and the daughter. It's like you gotta continue living your lives. Like you can't rely on me all the time. Like what is this kind of thing? You can't let times just stop. So this sort of like how it's gonna resolve is already kind of 90% set up in episode one. Um, After that, it's a lot of just like again the world building, how the characters develop, and kind of move towards the ultimate resolution of the story. Um, there's a lot. I have like a lot of notes on here, so I want to. It's like I have notes on here, but it's not ordered very well. Sorry. So I'm gonna try to order as much as possible from like top level down. What I'll say is like it's a little bit the way the story, the pacing is the pacing of the character developments is good. It's fast, it's steady. So it's like there's a lot of things like constantly happening where it's like you'll have this drama happening and then boom, it gets kind of like sort of resolved ish. And then you'll have new characters come in and then they'll talk about their stuff and their problems. And then that sort of gets resolved. And then a new development, boom, 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 down the line. The issue is, despite having this good pacing, the overall story seems a bit aimless while also having too many objectives to juggle. And what I mean by that is it feels a bit aimless because it it feels like the author is has kind of put out these characters with problems out into the world, right? And it's like you have this premise like, oh, how are they gonna get back to how are they going to get back to their own regular lives, or how are they going to find happiness or whatever, right? But it's like there's a lot of ways that there's at least a couple of ways that this could sort of uh, the the characters could develop in theory, right? Although in practicality there's only one or two ways the story standard usually works out. Um so reason why it feels aimless is ultimately the theme, right, is a little bit too vague, right? It's just like, how are you going to find happiness? How are you just going to move on? Which, is not really a question that is answered in a succinct way in a literary story properly, right? Or it can't really be properly answered in a literary story, especially if it's adapted into an anime of 12 episodes or whatever, however many episodes. And yet, the objectives just on face, right? Like uh the happiness of the father has and like where he's going has to be resolved, the husband. The happiness of the daughter has to be resolved, although that's a lesser problem overall. The happiness of the
it's true.
reincarnated wife
Daughters are not
slash
as
the
important as father.
yeah, they they are lesser beings. They yearn for the mind, so fuck them.
True.
Fuck them kids. Yeah. uh, the the problems of the reincarnated wife slash the daughter and her like family has to be kind of resolved. Everything kind of has to tie back together, and the supernatural occurrence has to be resolved. And so SumaSho is in this weird setting where it both has too many objectives to juggle, and at the same time, because the objectives are so kind of vague, where it's like, oh, how is the husband going to find happiness? Kind of is because it's so vague. The way it has to build its story, the way it has to talk about these things becomes very kind of aimless in a sense. So, um, i- oh yeah, and on top of that, not only are there these sorts of story objectives, but it also needs to have, because it is a slice of life, it needs to have this like these bits of peaceful after story slice of life scenes and stuff like that. Um, And it's just like there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of the objectives are vague. So the way it develops is a little bit too like it's not. It doesn't feel like it's aiming to properly resolve the story, even though the pacing and like there's a lot of things happening on the screen. So it's a very weird feeling. Um,
So I have a kind of big
yeah.
question. And this is kind of like the only thing on my mind when I look at the show.
Mm,
Does this series acknowledge at all the fact that uh the wife being around is
mm.
incredibly unhealthy to them like grieving and moving on? Like,
Yeah. That's like one of the center things, I guess. But it's not so by center I mean it's very interesting the way interesting being charitable. It's interesting the way the story handles it because it's almost like a ReZero Amelia situation where part that sort of sometimes gets like shunted off to the side. It's like, don't think about that. Although it's like the main premise of the story, don't think about that for a while. We need to resolve this other arc of
awesome.
like drama, blah blah. And then that gets resolved, and then all right, we're back to this whole like should we really have like this reincarnated wife in the body of this kid? Like, is this a good thing? Kind of business, right? So they do uh answer it a little bit more in the later questions, and obviously it becomes a main point of resolution, right? Because the reincarnated wife can't be in the kid forever. Um, but or the spirit of the wife can't be in the kid forever. But sometimes it kind of just gets rudely shunted off to the side, and it's like, wait, hold up. We need to develop this other character. And so it's a very again this is why I keep saying right there's so many things to juggle, and a lot of these things are like big and like vague. uh so no matter how much of this like shunting and reorganizing and okay we're gonna resolve this pace or we're gonna resolve the character's arc, and then boom 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 2 episodes in we're gonna bring this other character and then we're gonna have romance and blah blah, no matter how fast the pacing is, it's just like there's too much to do and so much of it's like it's hard to do, right? So that's the sort of problem I feel. One of the problems I feel with the series. The second sort of section of slight criticisms I have with the series is that the way a lot of this world building and story structure kind of pans out in terms of how does the husband find the happiness? How does the daughter find her happiness? How blah blah. It's a lot of at least on one major side of the cast. I'll talk about the exceptions to this in a little bit later. The fact that the husband and the daughter's sort of world building and how they get sort of hurdled towards their story objectives of finding happiness end up kind of devolving into these like base romantic subplots, which is less than impressive. And a lot of the way along the way like the drama points, right, stuff like this implied love triangle or like oh do you really like me or whatever this is, right, stuff like that. um a lot of the way that the drama points happen in these romance subplots, the way they start and the way they resolve in the series is a little bit too on the nose and one dimensional. Like you can see the moment that like the scene occurs, or even before the scene occurs, when the foreshadowing happens. Uh, you can see how it will start and how it will resolve from pretty much a mile away if you've read more than like one manga series or even like a book, right? So it's a little bit unfortunate that a lot of the world building, a lot of the character development, and like, oh, um, like I've become a happier person due to XYZ events. These XYZ events kind of just end up being very simple base again, romantic manga subplots that you've seen a billion times at a very basic level. So that's a little bit unfortunate. Um, I think the the exception to this is actually the story with the reincarnated wife slash the daughter's mother. And honestly, that's currently the best part of the series, hands down. The stuff, the trials and tribulations that she goes through, like the realizations that she realizes that the spirit of another person's wife is stuffed into her daughter and how she resolves that stuff like that. Um, that's like way better. This story is like way better than anything else in the entire series so far. And the author sort of realizes this because this arc sort of becomes the centerpiece of the story for like X number of it's like for way more episodes than you would think it it would get because this is if you think about it, right? It's like that's not really the main initial hook of the story, right? Of this series because the main hook of this series is to any outsider, it's how the husband and the daughter recover over time, right? After meeting up with the daughter, right? But the story kind of pulls away from that for a good while and kind of just turns into, yeah, how's the daughter's mother doing? Like how's the reincarnated wife's daughter as daughter's mother doing and how is she dealing with all this stress? And that sort of takes reign over the series for a while. And I think the author kind of realized halfway, it's like, wait a minute, this characters look way better than all the other characters that I wrote in this story. So it's a little bit of an unfortunate thing in a sense, but I mean that part of the story is good, so that's nice. And I think that honestly, for me, this part is the only thing that really boots the story up a couple of points. Otherwise, I would have given it a much worse score than I have before. Although there are still a lot of things dragging down. I would say also in terms of like the romance and how the romance subplots and how the drama and the themes of like leaving the past behind, stuff like that. A little bit too much on the nose, a little bit too many repetitive elements outside of again the story with the mother, right? Um, and I also think that this is a little bit picky for this is a little bit nitpicky for me, but a lot of these like stories, right, are being run or this entire story, right, is being run concurrently. Right. It's not like Orb, for instance, right, where there's this like time skip or like this like shift in like kind of yeah, like this like disjoint between eras of time, right? So the important thing in when you're running this sort of concurrent story is switching screen time, right? That's an additional difficulty, but it's like you have to do this thing where you're developing the story of one character and then like you kind of switch over to the story of another character because they are all these events are supposedly happening in real time. But the way this series works, at least in the anime adaptation, is that the character development is done almost strictly like one at a time. Like this entire arc is set up to develop these one or two characters, kind of, and then afterwards you'll have like one or two episodes where it develops the daughter's character a little bit, and by development I mean you know um, base romance subplot, right? And then you'll have like this entire arc where we're diving into the supernatural, and that's sort of delving a little bit more into the interactions between the husband and the wife, right? And so these things are being taken one by one in the timeline, right? Like this arc happens in the timeline before this arc, and then the next arc happens after the timeline. They are not happening concurrently, in the story. So I think that's a little bit iffy because it's like you're aware of how time flows in the story, right? And kind of seeing this one arc get hyper focused on, and then in the meanwhile, all the other characters that are not really as relevant to the arc just get shunted off to the side, right? And they're just like, "Oh, you're just like just deal with some here, have some romance subplot. Just go off to the side, and we're gonna focus on this character." And I think that's a little bit iffy, like once you notice that. So uh, this also goes double because for this also goes double for the husband arc because the later husband arc where the husband has to deal with the supernatural implications of the the daughter with the spirit of the wife in her, right, is not very good we're trying to because the husband arc is trying to dual wield or kind of juggle both the husband's character development, right? The husband needs to find the happiness and resolve and blah blah blah. But at the same time, the overall story is trying to work out this like weird supernatural premise of whether she's reincarnated or being possessed by the spirit or however this is going to resolve, right? And so they're doing that juggling thing, and the entire story is kind of focusing on that. At the same time, again, all the other characters are kind of getting shunted off to the side in terms of like their main character development. So I think the way it's being juggled is a little bit iffy. And again, it doesn't in these cases, it doesn't really matter how fast the pacing and how fast the development is. There's just too much to do. There's too much to do, and there's too big. The story objectives are too big in this case to handle with any amount of pacing speed. Um, and the supernatural parts coming in, obviously are not very good either, but I think ultimately in this case they're a little bit necessary. The way it's resolved obviously is necessary because it's like, the beginning was railroaded, right? The beginning was literally an elementary school girl knocking. It's like, hey, I'm your wife. So ultimately, the ending also sort of needs to be shoehorned in. But um, I do think that there are potentially more natural endings to be had with the supernatural premise. Although obviously I have not finished the series yet. Um the so yeah, I think that's pretty much sort of what I wanted to say about this. The comedy in itself is sort of pretty bland, and it's like the standard fare of like, oh, you're fawning over a lolly kind of thing. Again, when I the stuff I talked about before, right? Where it's like there's a story development of like the one or two characters, right? And then everybody else that's not related to the arc is kind of shunted off to this like romance subplot on the side. And that like romance subplot, um, when it gets shunted off to these like storage containers on the side while the main arc is developing, it's just like very only given like paltry consolatory token. Here's the bento I made. Do you like it? Or like we should go on a date together. Like that's like all the fuel that sort of like side romantic subplot kind of gets until the main arc gets resolved. And this is sort of what I mean by it kind of looks iffy, right? Because you have this main arc and it's like, oh, the characters and the story, blah blah. And then like, what's going on with all the other characters? Oh, they're off on this date, and here's the bento I made. And it's like what's going on here? Like, are we working with the same characters at the same time? What's happening? So it's a very unfortunate, I think, juxtaposition of of the main arc alongside the subplots. So uh, overall, I think from what I'm seeing, the overall resolution that I predict will kind of I'm not sure if it's going to pan out very well. I feel like instead of digging in too hard into the supernatural premise, I would have preferred sort of like a Jun Maeda key animation, like Klana sort of ending, where it's like it only hints at the supernatural, but overall it kind of pans out smoothly into happy ending. But that's not what the author wanted, so here we are. Um, at the end of the day, I think again, as I said before, this series had to satisfy higher standards than usual, as expected, to help support the fact that this premise was less than appealing. Let's be straight up about it, like upfront about it, as well as
Okay,
B.
Wokey.
Okay, you like I can't believe you wouldn't support a premise where a schoolgirl, elementary schoolgirl, is trying to hug, 40-year-old man. Um, but yeah, and B, the fact that both the premise and the cast, like how the cast managed to like meet up and connect with each other's story, was quite a bit railroaded. It's a little bit forced in the story. Um, Unfortunately, the series did not meet my expectations with what I wanted from the story to satisfy this sort of forced premise. Again, the pacing is okay, but ultimately there are just too many story objectives. There are too many vague story objectives, which sort of makes the structure of the story flow seem a little bit too aimless and like, how are we going to get towards happiness kind of business. And the way that the character developments play out are in terms of again the romance subplots in terms of the drama points within those romance subplots, are a little bit too run of the mill and honestly obvious without even needing to watch the story. So again, the problems I have is not with the premise so much. It's just it's just there's too many things that are cheesy and all the nose, and it's just not juggled well in the story, I think. So I think pretty much uh, like the audio visuals, whatever, uh, the story. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to sneeze. The story overall, pretty much most of the things inside it, I think, are sort of dragging it down, except for again the story with the mother of the reincarnated wife kid, um, which really is honestly the crown jewel, the North Star of this series. Without it, I would have probably given it a much worse score, but overall, I would have probably give it a 3.5 or 4 out of 10. Um,
Damn.
and this is a
Bro was
yeah, this
about to
is
give this
this
shit
got
a 0, dude. What the fuck?
yeah, I would have given it a 0. That's not. I mean, it's like okay, but it's like um yeah, it's like part of it probably also does have to do with the truncation as well. It's like similar stuff that happened with something like Rec back in the early days. Um, Probably also similar to like the tonal differences between something like a Kodomo no Jikan anime, which had a much more like uh, active tone, right? Something like a Majikoi anime, which had a much more energetic tone compared to the subdued tone of like the manga and the visual novel originals. But the core of the story is still a little bit, I think a little bit not hashed out properly. Or I think it would be, I think I would appreciate if it had a little bit more organic resolutions. But I know this got like a 7.25 on Mal. Um, yeah, I just uh, I don't think I can give it. I think if this was I think if this was the early 2000s, right? I think if this was the early 2000s, late 2000s, maybe even early 2010s, I could have given this a 5 or 6 out of 10. I could have given this a 6 out of 10 if this was early 2000s or late 2000s. In the year 2024, like the kid issue aside, it's a little bit hard for me to give it a higher score just because the novelty factor has worn off on a lot of these sorts of like story structures. So again, um, I'll say 4 out of 10. I'll say 4 out of 10, but it's a little bit hard for me to give it at least the anime adaptation on an above average score. So fortunate, but it is what it is. And again, I want to say it's not because of the premise. It's just a very unfortunate story structure. So, but yeah, that was my review of TsumaSho. This is Tsuma Shougakusei ni Naru. And I apologize to anybody who might have, you know, wished potentially more positive review coming from it. I know this is like a very sort of uh, a little bit more uncommon premise that heralds um, this sort of like familial drama and stuff like that. But it is what it is. I'm talking about a review, talking about sort of how the story structures pan out in the series. So yeah, that was my review of TsumaSho. This was done by Street Spotlight or Stage Light or whatever it's called, right? Sorry, not Street Signpost. Yeah, Street Signpost. Um, and headed by again veteran director Abe Noriyuki. So, uh, I would suggest if you are more interested in this series, you'd be it would be best for you to just read the manga. Just read the manga. I always say this advice, just read the original. But in this case, you should really just read the original. I think that would be a better choice. So yeah. All right. And with that, we are finally on to the news. We don't have too much news today. It's just been 1 week, right? So we have two bits of news to go through quickly. First, ANN can confirm that the Northern District of California Court issued a subpoena on Thursday to compel Discord to share information that could help identify users allegedly involved in the recent Netflix leaks of anime episodes and live films, as well as other animated and live action works. Blah blah. Netflix filed the request. Blah blah. They refer to specifically an unreleased and copyrighted image from the second season of Squid Game web series posted by a Discord user with the um, online handle Jace Johnson. A person going
Damn,
by
they
the
just straight up
pseudonym Jace.
they straight up named
Yeah,
him too. That's crazy.
yeah. A person going by the pseudonym Jace Johnson had an interview with YGKKR, in which Johnson said that they were responsible for the leaks. And then, a bunch of others talk about, there were August leaks, there were leaks of like the new like Rama stuff, dun dun dun, so on. So obviously Netflix is
Bro,
having a
fucking
little bit.
everything leaked. This leak was huge. Like I think
Yeah.
the first act of Arcane leaked.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think like 4
There was
episodes of
ReZero leak
Dandadan
too. Yeah,
leaked. Yeah,
yeah,
like yeah, ReZero, which like think I think ReZero wasn't set to air for like months. Like episodes for that shit leaked. It was a huge leak. It was crazy.
yeah, yeah. I think it's like yeah, I mean, the thing is, like in this case, again, as much as I would like to still blame the companies, I can't really, like they do need to catch these insiders, because they are doing not great stuff. So, um, it'll be, uh, uh, it'll be interesting to see how fast they are on the case, especially again since this requires international kind of corpus, not international, but like cross-national court proceedings. But I know that um American courts, at least, right? And courts, yeah, yeah, at least in America, courts have been slightly becoming more amenable, right, to taking on requests from uh like Japanese studios and sources. And obviously in this case, it's from Netflix as well. So we'll see how this kind of proceeds here. But they'll probably catch him soon. And by soon I mean probably like if it's just like mainly Japanese people working on it on it, they'll catch him in like 2 years or something like that. Yeah, hopefully, but we'll see. Hopefully they catch him quicker rather than later. The next probably yeah, this is pretty much the last piece of news here. The Richmond Observer newspaper reported on Thursday that Richmond County Schools in North Carolina removed all copies of Unica Awakening, sold at scholastic book fairs in the district, pending a review. The move follows a complaint from a mother of a first grade student at Mineral Springs Elementary. So this is Samuel Satin and Gurihiru's manga adaptation of Osamu Tezuka's Unico manga. It's about this sort of like tells the story of a fierce young unicorn who angers the goddess Venus with his ability to inspire positivity and hope. Blah blah blah. Nikki Fletcher, the mother who filed
Yeah,
the complaint, reported being
positivity and
shocked.
hope,
Yeah,
gay, not allowed.
yeah,
Bye
that's
bye.
too. Yeah, brainwashing her children with the unicorns. But yeah, Nikki Fletcher, the mother who filed the complaint, reported being shocked by the graphic novel's depiction of gun violence and animal abuse, specifically when a man attacks a cat. Blah blah, and they're obviously putting it under
Does he
review.
attack a cat with a
Um,
gun?
with a gun. I thought they would support those things in these states, but yeah, so this follows like a long recent line of stuff being banned, such as I think the most infamous one in recent months was South Carolina moving to ban assassination classroom manga, right? Uh, from its school libraries, as well as like some other stuff. Oh yeah, there was a Sasuke Miyano one for in the
Yeah.
Florida ban, right? Because of the homosexual or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah, brother.
Can't make those homosexual books available.
Boys
Yeah,
do not
brother.
love boys.
It's-
We don't like that.
Especially in
We
Florida.
don't like
Yeah.
that, not very much.
But yeah, it's gonna be obviously the lines are gonna be blurred in every like in each of these reviews or decisions, especially because they're going to be popping up in different districts and like contexts and stuff like that. But it'll be interesting to see how far these sorts of manga bans go, and I hope that obviously there will always be exceptions, but I hope they don't go too far, obviously. So, but yeah, that was actually the last of the news here, and we're gonna blast straight off into our last shoutouts and callouts of the fall 2024 season. Everybody here gets one shout out and one call out each. Shout out something that you want to praise, 5 out of 5 stars. Sing to the heavens, enjoy, and it can be any one person, place, or thing. And call out is the exact opposite, 0 out of 5. Rant on Yelp, whatever. Send bad DMs, send angry DMs, and it can be any one person, place, or thing. And we start now with Nier.
Shout out to Atlas. That
Nice.
game's fun. It's also got some big ass fucking tits. Call outs to call outs to Fauna graduating, man. That shit sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sucks.
Yep.
Fauna's like literally one of 2 VTubers that I watch, so it's not great. But hopefully she'll be back. But yeah.
Thank you very much, Nier. Toast. Shout out call, please.
My call out is to whatever the heck's going on at cover over there. How many is that this year?
Uh-huh.
6?
I have no idea. It's
For the
Yeah.
year?
This year.
It's a lot. Sure.
See, HN, Mel, Chloe, Fauna, who else? 4? 4.
Me?
Is there more? I don't think so.
Ame, right?
Yeah, 5. Okay, 5. What's going on over there? I know the hot take. These 5 are bigger losses than any Niji Sanji took this year, other than Pomu and Solen. Going on
Okay.
over there.
Yeah. And your shout out?
Something's going on over there, and this new direction. Is it going to be beneficial for everyone in the end? Who knows? But right now, it sucks. 2024 sucks,
True.
and
I still
it's probably
say. I was just gonna say my money is on what I said earlier, where they try and shore up and tighten up their contracts, their renegotiations, and it
Yeah.
backfires spectacularly. It just makes
Yeah.
more people leave.
I mean, what do
Yeah.
you think's
And
happening
it
right
deserves
now?
them.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Also, we haven't had any Fest news yet. Gee, I wonder why. You have to finalize who's gonna be there and who's not, huh?
Probably.
Okay. And the shout outs, please.
I'm gonna shout out. I'm going to shout out Ceres Fauna. Pretty cool.
Beast.
Pretty good. Pretty good streamer.
According to my
Yeah.
YouTube rewind, she's the one I watched most this year. And
Nice.
she
Yeah.
had the second best model in EN.
A lot of her clips float up on my end too, and I don't really watch Ian stuff like at all. But yeah, it's pretty good.
So
All right, but think about it. Think about it. Germa starts streaming more regularly again. Fauna has to retire.
True. She needs to make
Think
time to
about
watch
it.
the stream, dude.
Yeah.
I'm
Direct collab incoming.
out of all the graduations, this one probably hits me the most because I watched her the most.
Nice. All
I'm just
right.
I'm just waiting for just two more, and then kaboom.
I mean, it's
What?
already kind of. I
Fucking
mean, the
Suisse and Crony?
Yeah, I mean, I think like EN's kind of cooked at this point, right? Like, I think it's kind of Jover. Like, I don't
Yeah, I
the,
don't know
know.
the
what.
thing is,
There's definitely something going on with Ian, for sure.
Yeah,
It's
like,
the split. I mean, it's kind of, you can see of the ones that go to Japan frequently, they'll be fine. The ones that don't, there's definitely a split going on over there
I mean, also, I
on
mean,
the
it's
EN
not
side at
even.
least.
It's not the thing is, it's like, well, first of all, let's just put out. This is very obvious from the beginning, right? From the jump. No matter how many people try to tell us, like, no, excuse me, whole life and cover are different, sir. Because they're the safe and they have the kindest people, okay? Like, all
True.
yeah,
right.
I mean, it's like, listen,
We predicted
you
this
see
from
these
They're the
like
numbers.
friendliest
2018 or
megacorp
something.
I know.
Yeah, well, because it's like it's one of those things where it's like, bro, you see these numbers, and it's like Agura should be like a fucking billionaire at this point, like, and we
But
obviously
but
know
I
that's not the case. So it's like
but I
something's
also
going on
think
there. It's not gonna work out
like
well for lower people.
yeah. Yeah,
Eventually, they're
the
gonna
cut to stuff
realize
like that.
like these contracts are kind of ass compared to like what I'm bringing to the table here.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like I was talking with somebody else, and it was like I did realize that obviously I think for the people who are able to bring in literally like a million followers, or a million subs on YouTube and stuff like that, it's it's become like a diseconomy of scale. So for those of you who don't know, an economy of scale, TLDR, it's like the larger you grow and the more you kind of take over things in the industry, the more efficiently you are able to kind of like make profits, right? This economy of scale is the exact opposite, right? The bigger you grow, the harder it is to make production efficient. And for these bigger streamers, it's obviously become a diseconomy of scale, right? And they've probably noticed that and kind of moved on. But obviously, the worst case outcome is not just the fact that they're wanting more cuts and stuff like that, more a bigger cut of the pie, which would just be like a business decision, right? And they could part amicably. But if there are actual personality management problems, that's a big thing because that's a personal, emotional problem that they have then with the management and the agency, and that becomes um, bad, and that could potentially again be much more harmful to cover and whole life in the long run. But anyways, it's been predictable. It's been a long time coming. I personally thought that um I actually didn't think Coco was necessarily the last like big brick to fall. I think mentioned right when Coco, Kiryu Coco went away that she wasn't like she was one of the big bricks to go, but we needed a couple more, right? I think probably Aqua was the straw, right? And we're just seeing kind of the outflow from here on out. And obviously, maybe the pace will accelerate if somebody like a Noel or a Marine kind of dips or whoever, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
I mean, if like somehow
But
like Corone like dips, it's like
oh god,
it's like really like any of them now. It's like
yeah.
gonna be the next one because that's
Aqua
gonna
started a
be
steady pace, but it's like the moment one of those like again my term for it is like crown jewels. One of those crown jewels gets like another one of those crown jewels after Aqua gets taken out. It's gonna be a tidal flow. It's gonna be a tidal wave. It's like
yeah.
it's
I think it's just
Joker.
gonna be curious to see if one of that happens, if like the JP
Hmm.
side happens first or the EN.
Yeah.
Because
The good
like
thing,
yeah, like I think like you were saying
the
like
thing is,
Crony
yeah,
or fucking Crony or like Gura or someone like just fully leaving would be kind of like the death knell. I feel
Pretty
like for
bad.
EN, like that would be that would be rough.
mm,
Gura
Of
especially. Gura is like fucking doomsday. Like
yeah.
of the ones that are getting their opportunities, you can kind of see there's a big gap between who's getting what and where they're going towards, or are they on the same path towards what Cover's doing right now? Because what Mori Calliope, she's getting all these deals. So you say she's getting all these deals, but what about the other ones?
Yeah.
The ones that moved to Japan? Oh, gee, I wonder why they're getting all these new opportunities that others aren't.
Well, it's also, I mean, you're very correct about this like mainland versus everybody else thing that is prominent in literally all of these agencies, right? Niji Sanji being probably the most infamous one, right?
Yeah,
Of the
because I mean,
agencies
clearly they
example.
don't know how to like actually mirror their fucking operations overseas. Like they just
Yeah,
No
yeah,
one
yeah.
from
knows
the
yet.
get-go. So it's been
It's
like,
uncharted waters for basically
But I
them.
actually, I would posit honestly that obviously Niji Sanji has their like outflux just because they have so many like streamers coming in and shit like that, and their model is like super whack. Um, but I posit, and this will be an unpopular take, but I'm prepared to be proven wrong. But I posit that actually Niji Sanji will have a more gradual descent than Hololive will. In
I don't think that's really
in
a
the
hot.
upcoming
I don't
years.
think that's really a hot take. I think
Well,
that's yeah.
the
I think it's
issue
pretty
is
like
the issue is right now Niji
believable
Sanji's
now.
still pretty low, right? Like they still haven't really recovered from like the Selen shit, right? Like that was a
Yeah, but that's
huge
also
Yeah,
all
yeah.
on
huge
the like
black
yen
mark.
side too. Yeah,
Yeah, but
but I
I
think in
mean
terms of like the
that did
main Niji
definitely
Sanji branch, right?
affect
Yeah, that
Yeah,
affected them.
yeah.
I feel like the
they
thing
Like
is
now
though
it's
is
had to
that
different
they've
release
kind of like steadied out.
they had to
Yeah,
release that statement and everything. And like I
yeah.
feel like when the Selen stuff happened, the JP side was kind of like, yeah, whatever, right? But then when they
Yeah.
released that statement and then the like financial reports came out, the JP
Mm,
side was like, oh fuck, like this is bad
mm,
actually, right? And
yeah.
I don't think
They got chunked out.
yeah, I don't think the reputation has really made that much of a comeback since, right? Like
Mm,
so.
Yeah. I
What
do
is
feel
it?
like it is possible though that if this I mean obviously it would be obvious if this continues at this pace effectively, like Niji would outlast, right? Just because of
well, the reason why I mentioned this is ultimately, much like there are corrupt models in terms of like streaming, and not just in Japan, but in places like Korea and China as well. But at the end of the day, Nisanji and Vispo and the others, well, Vispo is also kind of putting itself as an idol agency, but like Nisanji can has always branded and focused itself as a streaming agency, first and foremost, with like some coattail chasing of Whole Life when Whole Life was at their peak and stuff like that. But the this being said, because they're streamer focused, Nijisanji is more able to kind of just stay low and kind of suck the money from their kind of streamer strongholds, right? Like the most infamous being
yeah,
probably
they're able to
Konoha, right?
they're
With
basically able to
Kuzuha
fall
and the
back on
others.
just basic management,
They can
right? Like
lay quiet being streamers, right? But Whole Life can't do that because they are branding themselves and they're pushing themselves into like this idol industry shit, right? This Japanese idol industry shit, right? And they're trying to move away from being a streamer focused agency, which is a completely different thing. And if you lose the branding and the idols in an idol focused agency, you get fucking deleted way faster than streamer
yeah, you
stuff.
can't like
And,
yeah, like it's
there are
not
parallels
like
in
you're not gonna be
K-pop
able
as
to
well, right?
rebuild
It's
from
like, yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just they have much more meteoric ups and downs in terms of like trying to brand themselves with the idol stuff. So
Yeah, it's like you
it'll
could always
be
get another streamer, but like
yeah.
and you'll find like streamers that are great and streamers that are popular, but it's like you're not capturing something like
Or even
Gura again.
scandal Latin streamers can just kind of lay quiet and keep getting their bag. That's the thing. But
Yeah, they
like,
could keep
you can't
yeah,
really
they
do
could
that with
just
an
keep
idol. Yeah.
yeah, they could just keep streaming. Like
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah, I
So
mean it
it'll
also definitely makes people look differently. I feel like even in a different way at
Mhm.
things like Hololive because people are definitely now looking at like, what is the permanence of
Yeah.
even like investing in like time and like care in these like idol characters effectively when
Yeah.
they're just gonna be gone.
The
And
the
realistically, like my
yeah, the
allegiance
investment
has
people will
always been to
definitely
just the
be
streamer anyway.
yeah, exactly. The VCs will definitely be taking a closer look at like what's going on. And VCs and investors and funds are a very, 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 very flighty bunch. They are even more flighty than the flightiest of female VTuber streamers. Let me just tell you. And the
I am
first
curious
sign
to
of
know
like
too. I'm
yeah.
curious to know if that flightiness too also was actually helped by things like the Dodgers deal and
Oh
shit
yeah,
like
for
that.
sure. Because
Like
like
seeing
older
those
people are
deals
just like
pop off and
sports.
just being like,
Yeah, yeah.
the fucking Dodgers merch made how much money and I'm getting paid fucking how much?
Yeah,
Like, all
because
right.
if you think about it, even esports couldn't pull off what VTubers did, right? Like Overwatch League literally tried to hook up with like sports teams, right? But then they fucking failed. Um, VTubers, or not VTubers, but Whole Life, right? Managed to succeed where literally Overwatch itself couldn't, right? Like,
Yeah, and that was Blizzard.
so
Yeah, that was Blizzard dumping like fucking billions into that shit.
yeah, exactly. So obviously, the older people on there, especially, are like, "What? You guys hooked up with like an
Well,
actual freaking sports team?" But obviously, again, since they are flighty, they'll look at this sort of like sudden wave of resignations, be like, "Wait a minute, what's happening here?" Kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. But um, anyways, thank you very much, Toast, for your shout out call out. Dark, shout out call, please.
I'm gonna have a little bit more of a general shout out than near, not to copy him. Um, I'm gonna shout out games. I'm gonna shout out games right now in general.
Nice.
true.
Video games. A lot of good stuff coming up. There's WoW's obviously been fun. WoW's been good. I'm not sure about Final Fantasy's new patch, but maybe it's good. I haven't really actually played it recently, just because I haven't gotten to it.
The story
But
sucks.
yeah, all awesome.
Yeah, it's not
That's
good.
cool because I'm seeing unreliable people talk about how it's actually quote unquote saved Dawn Trail. So
I
that's
don't know
cool.
why people would say that, but yeah, it's not good. The new dungeon is really good, but the
Okay.
story is dog shit.
Wonderful. I that actually makes me want to play more to see. Um but yeah, so what is it called? Yeah, so Star Citizens had some cool stuff. What is it? I don't know. Just a lot of cool updates coming out for games. Atlas has been phenomenal. Been super addicting, super fun. Really, really want to see where that goes. And yeah, new releases coming out look great. Um, even stuff like Marvel Rivals looks cool. So really, really excited for that. Um, yeah, I'm thinking games are being good right now. So hopefully 2025 doesn't disappoint.
All right, pretty good. Thank you very much,
My
Dark.
call out, my
Oh, yeah,
call
yeah,
out,
you still had your
however,
call, yeah.
is also going to be to video games, but also to one specific game. And for a reason that's
Which,
not that severe, to be honest. And it's Stalker 2's updates. I don't know what the fuck is going on with that game, but I haven't played it yet, but I installed it to play it. And yesterday I had like an 18 gigabyte update, and now today I have an 8 gigabyte update. And they're like they're like 1.0 point X patches, and it's like, what the fuck did you guys do that you need to update like 30 gigabytes of your fucking game's files?
That's Ukrainian
Like, oh, a
engineering
week
right there,
after,
brother.
yeah, like a week after release. Like, please, man, like, what the fuck? It sucks, but apparently the game is very good, and it's a little buggy, but not
A
like
little.
disastrously so, from what I've heard.
It's quite buggy.
Yeah, I've heard like
It's not like
it's obviously like
it's not
it's
like
buggy, but it's not
game-breakingly
like yeah,
buggy, but it's quite buggy. Like
yeah. I've heard it's still very enjoyable. It's not like a fucking not like a cyberpunk or something, or it's just like
no.
straight up like this shit's just broken. But hopefully they sort that out because I don't want to keep waking up to like 10 plus gigabyte updates. So it would be
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much, Dark. And I guess for my shout out call out, um, shout out to I don't even know, bro.
Damn, that
There's
bad, huh?
yes, well, there's a lot of I don't know. There's not a lot of oh, I guess shout out to like Thanksgiving stuff I had, or rather, yeah, shout out to Thanksgiving Black Friday stuff. I could take some time off and just kind of relax a little bit on this weekend and just do whatever thanks to the extra day of vacation. So got a nice weekend rest so far, which is nice. I didn't have anything I of Thanksgiving, unfortunately. I kind of wanted to try fried turkey wings, but the problem was that I couldn't. I didn't want to. I didn't want to prepare an extra like bucket of oil just to fry a couple of turkey wings. So like I hate kind of like storing it and like having to mess around with it and stuff like that. So,
Could have just
but
fried a whole turkey to begin with.
yeah, it's like I have this bucket of oil, so I should just buy a turkey now. Yeah, uh, but that's my shout out and my call out. It's not even a call out, really. It's like pity is is honestly what I would say at this point. I kind of pity the whole like kind of what's going on with the whole life community, with the whole life people. Again, this was to anybody kind of in tune with how these sorts of like female Nico Nico, Twitch casting, whatever streamers and stuff like that were. It is not very much surprise that this would happen the way it kind of did. Um, Again, I know a lot of people held out hope because Whole Live was light in the darkness or whatever they want to think about Cover Corp.
Bro,
But
Yagu is literally Jesus. Okay.
yeah,
Just
he
saying,
is the
once they
he is
announced that Genshin clone, you should have fucking realized, folks. Okay, like
yeah.
should have known they were
But
just
you know,
burning money in the wrong places.
yeah, or like the Whole Life Earth or whatever thing was, or whatever that thing project is. But you know, not even the mightiest corporations can fight against human nature. So, and it sucks that it came to this. And for what I'm saying, for for what it's worth, throughout these recent sorts of resignations, right? I have fully been as charitable as possible to cover core, and I'm hoping that these like departures from Hall Life have been due to business differences. It's and hopefully it's been due to differences in I want a bigger cut of the pie. I want to just become independent, and it's a business thing because again, if it's a business thing, it'll be much more amenable uh in terms
That's
of how
not
they
what
split.
Fauna said.
Yeah, but if they are splitting truly due to personnel issues, management issues, these sorts of more personal, emotional, kind of like having to deal with people issues, then there it speaks to, unfortunately, um, a bigger problem within cover that is going to blow up sooner rather than later. And again, I wish the best for the streamers and for all the good people at cover and hope that that is not the case. But yeah,
Man, who
that
am I gonna
was
watch now? I used to watch it. Fauna was my Germa-esque replacement.
Crony
Yeah, whatever she pops
Nurse.
Crony
up
is not a
as.
Germa-esque
I,
replacement or a Fauna-esque replacement.
something
What's wrong
tells
with
me
you?
Yeah,
something tells me Fauna's not gonna be done streaming.
She's
So
not. She said she
yeah,
loves
yeah, yeah.
streaming.
Yeah. A lot, pretty much all the, I mean, even Pecora was like, I was surprised that the management had moved a little bit towards, moving me away from streaming, right? Although Pecora literally loves streaming and because she's a Nico Nico veteran, she is
Yep.
used to just like hardcore grind. She is the Sigma grind set, like
Yep.
actually the Sigma grind set. Kirk,
He's probably a
Noel,
better
and the other.
businessman than anybody at fucking Cover is.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But what about her
um,
Gamble streams?
we don't talk about that, yeah. But yeah, they are, and I mean this in the best way possible. They are like cockroaches. They will survive a nuclear holocaust, and they will still be streaming on the other end of it. So,
We
you
saw it in
know,
Mao 2099.
yeah,
Say.
exactly. That is true. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But that was my shout out and call out. And with that, we are finally done with our fall 2024 season reviews lineup. Thank you all so much for singing with us through this fall 2024 season, and kind of ended up a little bit better than maybe some of us thought it would be. But we'll be doing the preview show in 2 weeks, and then right after that, a week after, we will be doing an earlier than anticipated end of the year awards show because I will have to take a vacation afterwards. So I have to kind of mess around with schedules a bit. I apologize for any inconvenience,
Yeah,
but yeah,
fuck you.
I apologize. Uh, but yeah, we'll be doing the preview show and the other one, the awards show in December. So check us out for those. Obviously, some of those, some of the more lively shows that we have on the podcast are those sorts of shows. So stay tuned. And if you like what we do, we stream our podcast every other Saturday, starting from 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at twitch.tv/4PlayAnimeCast. Uh, again, with the number 4, where we talk about the latest and greatest in Japanese animation media, anime, manga, light novels, web novels, visual novels, and so much more. You can check out our recorded podcasts and highlights and content here, as well as on YouTube under 4Play Animecast, whichever format you desire. We have our updates and news on our social media on Twitter uh, at 4PP Animecast, Facebook 4Play Animecast, and we now have a Blue Sky account
Which
up
I
and
have
running.
not posted to yet, and so not really,
Yes.
but it will be for the next one.
Yeah, but it is also under the handle 4Play Animecast, again, all with the numeral 4 at the beginning. So yeah, so check us out here, check us out there, and as always, we'll see you next time.